The screen didn't say wrong password. It just flashed a thin red line reading access denied. This wasn't a glitch. It was a door locked from the inside with my own signature. Even though I had never held the pen, standing in that bank lobby, I realized my parents didn't just want my $480,000 trust fund. They wanted to erase my right to say no. My name is Adeline Corbrook, and at 34 years old, I had finally convinced myself that I was safe. It was a lie, of course, but it was a comfortable one. I stood in the kitchen of our renovated mid-century home in Marrow Ridge, the morning light filtering through the oversized windows, casting long, pale rectangles on the quartz countertop. My coffee was still too hot to drink, steam curling up in lazy ribbons. Everything about the moment was aggressively normal. My husband, Adam, was in the shower, the distant hum of the plumbing vibrating through the floorboards. The dog was sleeping in a patch of sun. I picked up my phone, just like I did every single morning, to check the balances. It was a tick, a reflex born from growing up in a house where financial security was always held over my head like a guillotine blade. I tapped the icon for the Stoneford Trust and Savings app. The blue screen loaded, the little white wheel spun, and then, instead of my dashboard, instead of the comforting ledger showing the $480,000 that my grandmother had left me, the money that served as my ultimate escape hatch. The screen flashed red. It was a thin, sharp line of text, like a paper cut. Access denied. I frowned, my thumb hovering over the glass. My first instinct was irritation, not panic. Technology failed all the time. Servers went down for maintenance. Wi-Fi signals dropped. I swiped the app closed and relaunched it. The wheel spun again. Access denied. This time, the text seemed bolder. I felt a small, cold prickle at the base of my neck. I tried Face ID again. The padlock icon shook, rejecting my face as if I were a stranger. I tapped the option to enter my passcode manually. I typed in the 6 digits I had used for 3 years. The screen cleared, seemed to think for a second, and then returned the same red banner. Contact your branch administrator. I set the coffee mug down. The ceramic made a loud clack against the quartz. I walked quickly to the home office, my bare feet silent on the hardwood. I needed a bigger screen. I needed to see the desktop version. I sat down at my desk and woke up my laptop. I navigated to the Stoneford website, my fingers flying across the keys. I entered my username. I entered my password. I hit enter. Usually, this was the part where the two-factor authentication prompt appeared. Usually, my phone would buzz with a 6-digit code. Nothing buzzed. Instead, the web page refreshed instantly to a blank white screen with simple black text in the center. User account suspended. Please contact the primary account holder. I stared at the words. Primary account holder. I was the primary account holder. That trust was mine. It was left to me by Evelyn Corbrook, my grandmother, specifically so that I would never have to ask my parents for a single dime. It was the only thing in my life that Derek and Lydia Corbrook did not have their fingerprints on, or so I thought. A notification slid down from the top right corner of my screen. It was an email from the bank's automated security system. I clicked it, my heart rate starting to climb a steep hill. The subject line was generic. Security alert. Profile update. I opened the body of the email. It was terrifyingly brief. Your account access has been updated per the instructions on file. If you have questions regarding these changes, please visit your local branch. There was no name attached to the sign-off. There was no explanation of what updated meant, but the subtext was screaming at me. You do not update access permissions at 7:15 in the morning unless something drastic has happened. You do not lock out the beneficiary unless the beneficiary has been flagged. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. Adam would be down in 10 minutes. I looked at my hands. They were trembling, not a lot, just a fine tremor in the fingers. I clenched them into fists. No, I whispered to the empty room. No, you don't get to do this. I grabbed my phone again. I could call the customer service line. That was what a normal person would do. A normal person would assume identity theft or a banking error. A normal person would think about hackers in a basement halfway across the world. But I was not a normal person. I was a Corbrook, and I knew exactly who the hackers were. Adam walked into the kitchen as I was coming back out, clutching my phone like a weapon. He was dressed for work, his tie undone, looking loose and easy. He saw my face and stopped mid-step. "Addie." He frowned, stepping closer. "What's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "My bank app," I said, my voice sounding hollow in my own ears. "I'm locked out. Completely. Web, mobile, everything. It says access denied." Adam let out a breath that sounded like relief. "Oh, is that all? It's probably a system crash. Remember when Wells Fargo went down last month? Just call the 800 number. I'm sure they can reset it." He was so logical, so rational. He looked at the problem and saw a broken circuit. I looked at the problem and saw a noose. "I don't think it's a crash." "Adam," I said, "I think it's them." He didn't have to ask who them meant. We had been married for 5 years. He knew the stories. He knew why we lived 3 states away from my childhood home. But he still had that innate, frustrating optimism of someone who came from a loving family. He still struggled to believe that parents could be predators. "Honey," he said gently, reaching out to touch my arm. "Don't go there yet. Call the bank first." "I am calling," I said, but I didn't dial the bank's number. My thumb hovered over Dad in my contacts list. I hadn't spoken to him in 3 weeks, the last time we talked. I had declined their invitation to spend the summer at the lake house, and the conversation had ended with a frostiness that usually lasted for months. I pressed the call button. It rang once, usually. Derek Corbrook let it ring 4 times. It was a power move. He liked to make people wait, to make them wonder if he was too busy for them. But this time, he picked up on the very first ring. "Adeline." His voice was calm, unsettlingly calm. There was no surprise in his tone. No "good morning," no "everything okay?" Just my name, spoken flatly, like he was reading it off a checklist. "What did you do?" I asked. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "You sound upset," he said. He wasn't asking. He was observing, like a scientist looking at a lab rat. This is exactly why we had to step in. Stepped in. I gripped the phone tighter. "I can't access my trust. Dad, the account is locked." "What do you mean?" "You stepped in?" Then I heard the click of another line picking up. "Adeline, sweetheart," my mother's voice chimed in. It was that syrupy, concerned tone she used when she was performing for an audience. "Please lower your voice. You're sounding hysterical." "I am not hysterical," I said, fighting to keep my voice even. "I am locked out of my own money. Did you try to access my account?" "We didn't try," Lydia corrected me gently. "We did what was necessary. We received some very concerning reports about your spending lately, about your stability." My spending. I hadn't spent anything significant in 6 months aside from mortgage payments and groceries. My stability, I was the top compliance officer at my firm. I was the most stable person I knew. "That is a lie," I said. "I want my access back, now. You're not in a position to make demands." "Adeline," Derek said. His voice dropped an octave. Losing the pretense of warmth, it became the voice he used in boardrooms right before he fired someone. "We've enacted a protective measure. Power of attorney has been activated. We're handling your finances until you're well again." The room seemed to tilt. Power of attorney. They couldn't just activate that. I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't been declared incompetent. "I never signed a power of attorney," I said, my voice shaking with a rage so pure it felt like white heat. "You have no legal right." "It's already done, Adeline," Lydia said. "The bank has the paperwork. The doctors have signed off. We're just trying to save you from yourself." "Doctors," I repeated. "What doctors?" "Family first," Derek interrupted. It was their motto, their shield, their weapon. "You're clearly having an episode. You'll thank us later when the dust settles and you realize we saved your assets." "I'm going to the bank," I said. I'm going there right now, and I'm going to fix this. Go ahead, Derek said. He sounded bored. He sounded like a man holding a royal flush while I was bluffing with a pair of twos. They have the documents. Adeline, making a scene will only prove our point. It will only prove that you are unwell. We love you, Lydia added. This is for you. I didn't scream. I knew that was what they wanted. They wanted me to scream so they could record it. They wanted me to threaten them so they could play it for a judge. Okay, I said. The word hung in the air. It clearly surprised them. They were expecting a fight. They were expecting the old Adeline who cried and begged for autonomy. Okay, Lydia asked, a hint of suspicion entering her voice. Okay, I repeated. If that's how you want to play it, I ended the call. I stood there for a second, staring at the black screen of my phone. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage, but my mind was suddenly, terrifyingly clear. Adam was watching me, his eyes wide. Addie, what did they say? What is power of attorney? They stole it, I said. I walked past him to the hooks by the back door. I grabbed my car keys. They forged my signature. Adam, they've taken the trust. That's illegal, Adam said. Following me? They can't just do that. We'll call the police. Not yet, I said. Police take reports. Reports take weeks. By the time a detective looks at this, the money will be moved to an offshore account or buried in a shell company. I need to stop the transfer. I looked at my husband. He looked scared. He should be. He had no idea what kind of war had just been declared. I'm going to the branch, I said. I need to look a human being in the eye and make them tell me to my face that I don't own my own name anymore. I'll come with you, Adam said, reaching for his jacket. No, I said sharply. Then I softened. No, I need you here. I need you to find every piece of paper we have with my signature on it. Tax returns, mortgage docs, wedding license, everything. If they forged my signature, I need to prove it's a fake. I didn't wait for his answer. I walked out the door, into the garage, and got into my car. As I backed out of the driveway, the morning sun hit my windshield, blinding me for a second. I flipped the visor down. I merged onto the main road that led toward the financial district of Marrow Ridge. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. Derek's voice echoed in my head. Making a scene will only prove our point. He was right. If I walked into that bank screaming, I was the crazy daughter. If I walked in crying, I was the unstable victim. They had planned this. They had the paperwork. They had the doctors. They had the narrative. You don't execute a hostile takeover of a $480,000 account on a whim. You plan it for months. You rehearse the phone call. You anticipate the reaction. They were so confident. That was what chilled me the most. They were sitting in their house, 3 states away, drinking their own coffee, completely assured that they had already won. They thought the game was over because they had locked the door. I pressed my foot down on the accelerator. The engine roared. They forgot one thing. They forgot that I was a Corbrook too. They taught me how to lie. They taught me how to strategize. And most importantly, they taught me that the person who strikes first doesn't always win. It's the person who strikes last. I wasn't going to the bank to argue. I was going to the bank to gather evidence. The digital clock on the dashboard read 7:55 in the morning. The bank opened at 8. I would be the first person through those doors. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be the daughter asking for permission. I was going to be the nightmare they never saw coming. Stoneford Trust and Savings in Marrow Ridge was built to look like a fortress disguised as a library. It had thick limestone pillars, hushed carpets that swallowed the sound of footsteps, and the kind of air conditioning that felt expensive rather than just cold. I walked through the revolving glass doors at 8:02 in the morning. The air smelled of sanitizer and old money. I bypassed the main teller line. I did not need to deposit a check or withdraw $20. I needed a platform banker, preferably one with the authority to override a system lockout. I scanned the room. To the left, behind a frosted glass partition, sat a woman I recognized vaguely from previous visits. She was in her late 40s, wearing a charcoal blazer that looked tailored, her hair pulled back in a severe, efficient bun. Her desk nameplate read, Tessa Lang, Senior Trust Officer. I walked straight to her office. The glass door was open. Ms. Lang? I asked. My voice was steady, but my chest felt like it was being crushed by a hydraulic press. Tessa looked up from her dual monitors. She adjusted her rimless glasses, her expression shifting from distraction to professional courtesy. She recognized me. That was good. It meant I was still Adeline Corbrook to her, not just an account number. Mrs. Westlake, she said. Using my married name, she gestured to the chair opposite her. Good morning. We don't usually see you this early. Is everything all right? No, I said, sitting down. I placed my driver's license and my debit card on the mahogany desk between us. I wanted them visible. I wanted her to see my face and my ID in the same frame. I tried to log into my trust account this morning. The system denied my access. It said my profile had been updated. Tessa frowned, a small crease appearing between her eyebrows. That is odd. Did you change your password recently? I changed nothing, I said. I didn't fail a security question. I didn't mistype. The account is locked. I need you to open it, and I need to know who authorized the change. Tessa nodded, typing my account number into her keyboard. Let me take a look. It's probably just a security flag. Sometimes if you log in from a new IP address, the system gets overzealous. I watched her face. This was the moment, the pivot point. Tessa clicked her mouse 3 times. She hummed a low, non-committal sound. Then she stopped. It was a distinct freeze. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Her eyes narrowed slightly, scanning the text on her right monitor. The professional smile vanished, replaced by the blank, guarded mask that bankers wear when they see a disaster unfolding in real time. The silence in the small office stretched out, thick and heavy. What is it? I asked. Tessa didn't answer immediately. She turned her screen slightly away from me, a subtle defensive move. Mrs. Westlake, according to our system, your online access was revoked yesterday afternoon at 4:45. Revoked by whom? By the account administrator, Tessa said slowly. The system shows that the account status was changed to representative payee under a newly filed power of attorney. The air left my lungs. Hearing it from my father on the phone was one thing. Hearing it from a bank officer made it legally binding. I did not authorize a power of attorney. I am the sole beneficiary and trustee of the Evelyn Corbrook Trust. No one else has signing authority. Tessa looked at me, her eyes searching mine. She was assessing me. She was looking for signs of the instability my parents had undoubtedly claimed. The document was filed in person yesterday. It was processed and approved by our legal department's expedited review channel. In person, I repeated. Here in this branch. Yes, Tessa said. The log shows it was accepted at counter 4. I wasn't here yesterday, I said. I leaned forward, keeping my hands flat on the desk to hide the shaking. Tessa, look at me. I was at work until 5. Then I went home. I did not come to this bank. I did not sign a power of attorney giving anyone control over my grandmother's money. Tessa hesitated. The documentation includes a notarized signature and 2 witness attestations. It is a forgery, I said. I am formally disputing this right now. I want you to pull up the document. Tessa looked at the screen, then back at me. If you are disputing the validity of the POA, I have to follow a specific protocol. I have to warn you, if we initiate a fraud investigation, the account will be completely frozen. No money in, no money out. For anyone, including you. It could take weeks to resolve. Freeze it, I said instantly. Lock it down. I don't care if it takes 6 months. I want a total freeze. No withdrawals, no transfers, no bill pays. Tessa typed rapidly. I am placing a code red status on the account. Fraud freeze initiated. She hit a final key with an authoritative clack. Okay, The account is locked. Nothing moves. She let out a breath she seemed to have been holding. Then she looked at me with a new urgency. Mrs. Westlake, you came in just in time. Why? I asked. Tessa turned the monitor toward me. Because there is a pending wire transfer scheduled for 12 noon today. I looked at the screen. It was a terrifying wall of numbers, but my eyes locked onto the pending transaction line. Debit $463,700. Beneficiary Corbrook Family Management, LLC. Memo Asset Consolidation/Medical Care. $463,700, I whispered. My stomach dropped. The account held $480,000. They weren't just taking control. They were gutting it. They were leaving just enough to keep the account technically open so they could monitor it. But they were stripping the capital. If you had come in at 12:01, Tessa said quietly, this money would be gone. Wire transfers are irrevocable once sent. They tried to drain it, I said. The reality of it washed over me. This wasn't protection. This was a heist. Tessa, I need to see the POA. I need to see what they gave you. Tessa navigated to the Documents tab. She double-clicked a PDF file labeled POA_Corbrook_A_executed. The document filled the screen. It was a standard statutory power of attorney form for the state of Colorado. It looked official. It looked boring. But at the bottom of the second page, there was a signature. Adeline Corbrook. I stared at my own name. It was good. It was very, very good. It had the loop on the A that I had adopted in college. It had the sharp cross on the T in Westlake Waite. No, they had used my maiden name, Corbrook, which was how the trust was titled. The signature read, Adeline Corbrook. That looks like your signature, Tessa noted, her voice neutral. It looks like a picture of my signature, I corrected her. I pointed at the screen. Zoom in. Can you zoom in? Tessa magnified the image to 200%. Look at the ink density, I said. When I sign my name, I press hard on the downstroke of the C. It's a habit. The ink always pools a little there. Look at this. The pressure is uniform all the way through. It's too smooth. It floats. I trace the line on the screen with my finger, not touching the glass. And look at the rhythm, the connection between the R and the B. I lift my pen there. I always lift my pen. This is continuous. Someone traced this, or they practiced it until they could draw it, but they didn't write it. Tessa looked closer. She was a banker, not a forensic handwriting analyst, but she had seen thousands of signatures. She saw what I was pointing out, the hesitation marks, the lack of natural flow. It is consistent with a slow hand, Tessa admitted, like someone being careful. I am not careful when I sign, I said. I sign fast. This is a drawing. Tessa scrolled down. There is an attachment, she said. Her voice dropped again. This is the document that allowed the immediate activation of the POA. Usually, a POA requires a specific triggering event unless it is durable and effective immediately. This one is effective upon incapacity. Incapacity, I said. The word tasted like bile. She opened the second file. It was a letter on medical letterhead. Mountain View Cognitive Health. I had never heard of it. To whom it may concern, I certify that I have examined Adeline Corbrook on this date. It is my medical opinion that Mrs. Corbrook is currently suffering from an acute episode of dissociative instability and is temporarily unable to manage her financial affairs. It is recommended that her designated agents assume control of her assets immediately to prevent financial harm. Signed, Dr. S. J. Vance. The date on the letter was yesterday. Tessa turned to me. Her eyes were wide, and for the first time, she looked uncomfortable. She was looking for a hospital bracelet. She was looking for signs that I was medicated. Mrs. Westlake, she asked, and the question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Were you hospitalized yesterday? No, I said firmly. I was at work. I was at a compliance meeting from 2 to 4. I have witnesses. I have Outlook calendar invites. I have badge swipe logs. You weren't seen by a doctor, even a private consultation. I have never met a doctor. Vance in my life, I said. I have never been to Mountain View Cognitive Health. Tessa sat back in her chair. She looked at the screen, then back at me. The pieces were clicking into place for her. If I wasn't in the hospital, and if I wasn't incompetent, then the bank had just accepted a fraudulent order to transfer nearly $500,000 based on a lie. This is a capacity letter, Tessa said, tapping her finger on the desk. In the banking world, this is the master key. If a doctor signs this, we don't ask questions. We are trained to protect the client. If the client is deemed incapacitated, we hand the keys to the agent. We thought we were protecting you. You weren't protecting me, I said, my voice cold. You were burying me. I looked at the header of the medical letter. It looked professional, but something about it was off. The logo was pixelated, just slightly, like it had been copied and pasted from a website, not generated from an original vector file. They are building a person, I said, realizing the scope of it. They didn't just steal my money. They created a version of me that doesn't exist, a version that is crazy, a version that needs them, and they put it on your letterhead. Tessa reached for her phone. I need to call the branch manager, and I need to call the fraud department. This is beyond a simple dispute now. Do it, I said. And Tessa, do not let them know I am here. If the system sends an alert that the transfer was blocked, they will know something is wrong, but don't tell them I am sitting in your office. I can't control the automated alerts, Tessa said, dialing a 4-digit extension, but I can control the narrative. She held the receiver to her ear. Mara, it's Tessa. I need you in my office. Now. We have a code red on the Corbrook Trust. Yes, it's the daughter. She's here. And Mara, bring the physical file from yesterday's intake. All of it. She hung up and looked at me. If you are telling the truth, Adeline, then someone committed a felony in this lobby yesterday. I am telling the truth, I said, and I'm going to prove it. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 8:15. The wire transfer was scheduled for noon. We had stopped the money, but the war had just begun. My parents had played their hand a fake doctor, a fake signature, a fake crisis. Now it was my turn to flip the table. One more thing, I said as we waited for the manager. The person who came in yesterday, the one who brought these papers, did the notes say it was my father? Tessa checked the system log. The notes say POA accepted in person, principal present, agents present. I froze. Principal present. Yes, Tessa said. The log says Adeline Corbrook was here yesterday to acknowledge the POA. The room seemed to spin. It wasn't just my parents. I wasn't here, I whispered. The log says you were, Tessa said. Which means someone stood at that counter, looked my teller in the eye, and said they were you. My parents hadn't just forged a signature. They had hired an imposter. I felt a cold chill slide down my spine, sharper than the air conditioning. They had brought a fake Adeline into the bank. They had dressed someone up, coached them, and paraded them in front of the cameras. Pull the tapes, I said. The fear was gone, replaced by a hunter's focus. Tessa, you have cameras. Pull the footage from yesterday. I want to see who is wearing my face. Tessa nodded slowly. Mara is coming. We'll check the surveillance. I sat back, staring at the denied transaction on the screen. $463,700. They had been so close. They had been 4 hours away from total victory. But they had made a mistake. They got greedy. And they assumed the real Adeline would be too broken to fight back. They were wrong. Tessa Lang did not close the window containing the capacity letter. Instead, she maximized it, allowing the white background of the PDF to flood the small office with a stark, clinical light. The document was the cornerstone of my parents' entire offensive. Without it, the power of attorney was just a piece of paper. With it, it was a weapon that stripped me of my civil liberties. I leaned in. studying the digital artifact. On the surface, it was terrifyingly competent. The letterhead for Mountain View Cognitive Health featured a stylized logo of a mountain peak bisected by a synapse web, exactly the kind of over-designed branding private clinics used. The font was Times New Roman, 12-point, standard for medical correspondence. The language was precise, using terms like acute dissociative episode and financial competency evaluation. "I do not know this doctor," I said, pointing to the signature at the bottom. S. J. Vance, M.D. "I have a primary care physician in Marrow Ridge. Dr. Eris Thorne. I see a dermatologist in Denver once a year. That is the extent of my medical circle. I have never walked into a place called Mountain View." Tessa did not respond immediately. She was not looking at the body of the text anymore. She was looking at the very top of the document, at the faint, dot matrix line that usually appears when a paper is fed through a machine. "Adeline," Tessa said, her voice dropping to a hush, as if she were afraid the computer itself might hear her. "Look at the transmission header." I squinted. The header was a string of data encoded by the sending fax machine. It contained a date, a time, and a transmitting station ID. June 14th, 9:42 a.m. from 303-555-0198, page 1/2. "I see it," I said. "It was sent yesterday morning." "Yes," Tessa said, "but look at the source. Most hospitals and secure medical facilities use digital fax servers now. When they send a document, the header usually reads the name of the institution, like MTN View Records or Patient Services, or, if it is a number, it is a toll-free exchange or a main switchboard line." She tapped the screen with her pen, right on the number. "This," she said, "is a standard residential or small business landline. It has a local area code for the suburbs, not the medical district." I stared at the number, 303. That was the area code for the greater Denver metro area. Where my parents lived, I looked at the next 3 digits, 555, standard, then I looked at the last 4, 0198. The numbers didn't just sit there, they unlocked a sensory memory. I could suddenly smell the lavender potpourri my mother kept in her study. I could hear the hum of the expensive, oversized laser printer she kept on her oak desk, the one she used to print out agendas for the homeowners association meetings she presided over with an iron fist. 0198 was not a doctor's office. "That is my mother's home office line," I said. The realization was so sharp it made me dizzy. "That is the dedicated fax line she keeps for her charity board work. She claims she needs a hard line because digital signals are unreliable." Tessa turned to look at me, her face pale. "You are sure?" "I am positive," I said. "I memorized that number when I was 12 so I would know never to pick it up if it rang. She used to fine me $5 if I interrupted a transmission." The audacity of it was breathtaking. Lydia Corbrook hadn't even bothered to spoof the number. She hadn't gone to a Kinko's. She hadn't used an online service to mask the origin. She had fed a forged medical document declaring her daughter insane into her own machine. In her own house, sipping her morning tea, and sent it straight to my bank. She was so convinced of her own authority, so sure that no one would dare audit the Corbrook family, that she left her digital fingerprint right at the top of the crime scene. "They faxed the incapacity letter from their own house," I whispered. "They created the doctor, signed the name, and faxed it over before they even drove here to enact the takeover. That changes this from a dispute to a felony," a new voice said from the doorway. I turned. A woman was standing there. She was taller than Tessa, wearing a navy blue suit that looked like armor. Her hair was cut in a sharp, asymmetrical bob that suggested she didn't have time for nonsense. She didn't have a name tag, but she didn't need one. This was Mara Keene, the branch manager. I had seen her picture on the wall in the lobby, usually smiling. She wasn't smiling now. Mara walked into the room and closed the door behind her with a definitive click. She didn't sit. She stood behind Tessa's chair, looking at the screen. "Tessa briefed me via messenger," Mara said. Her voice was low, controlled, and utterly devoid of the customer service warmth that banks usually projected. This was risk management mode. I want to be clear, Mrs. Westlake, you are stating for the record that the fax origin of this medical document is your parents' personal residence. Yes, I said. You can verify it. The number is listed in the local directory under Derek and Lydia Corbrook. Mara nodded once. She reached over Tessa's shoulder and took control of the mouse. She didn't ask permission. I am locking this file, Mara said. Tessa, I want the audit trail exported to a secure server. Do not just save it to the local drive. I want the metadata preserved. If this goes to court, I need to prove that this file has not been altered since it was received by our system at 9:42 yesterday. On it, Tessa said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Mara turned her attention to me. If this letter is fake, then the power of attorney it supports is void. But we have a bigger problem. Our system shows the power of attorney was accepted in person. That means an agent your father or mother physically handed the original wet ink document to a banker. And the system says I was there too, I added, the anger simmering in my gut. Correct, Mara said. She clicked a new tab, bringing up the Customer Relationship Management log. This was the internal diary where bankers wrote notes about their interactions. It was data usually hidden from the customer. Here is the intake entry, Mara said. Timestamp 2:15 in the afternoon. Yesterday. Banker ID Kevin Miller. He's a junior associate. New to the desk. She began to read the notes aloud, and every word felt like a slap. Mr. and Mrs. Corbrook presented POA documents for the account of Adeline Corbrook. Principal, that is. You was present but nonverbal for most of the transaction. Client appeared distressed, disoriented, and was weeping intermittently. Mrs. Corbrook. Your mother explained that the client had received a difficult diagnosis that morning and needed immediate financial intervention to prevent erratic spending. Client nodded assent when asked if she understood the proceedings, but was unable to sign comfortably due to tremors. Banker accepted pre-notarized documents based on visual confirmation of identity. I stared at the screen. Client appeared distressed. Nonverbal. Tremors. They hadn't just stolen my money. They had staged a play. They had written a script where I was a broken, weeping child, and they were the benevolent saviors stepping in to catch me. And they had performed it right in the middle of the bank lobby. I was at a compliance audit for my firm at 2:15, I said, my voice shaking with a different kind of tremor, pure rage. I was arguing with a federal regulator about Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. I was not weeping in your lobby. We believe you, Mara said. The fax header is a smoking gun, but this note, she pointed at the screen. This note explains why the fraud worked. They relied on social engineering. They created a scene where the banker felt sympathy for the parents and pity for the daughter. They used your distress to bypass the deeper security checks. Kevin didn't ask too many questions because he didn't want to upset the crying woman. It wasn't me, I said. Who was it? Who looks enough like me to pass a visual ID check, but acts like a shattered version of me? Mara straightened up. That is what we are going to find out. She looked at Tessa. Tessa, initiate a chain of custody for the physical file Kevin took in. I want the paper originals in a fireproof bag in the vault within 5 minutes. Do not let Kevin handle them. Go to his desk and retrieve them yourself. Understood, Tessa said, standing up immediately. And Mrs. Westlake, Mara said, turning back to me. I am going to do something I rarely do. I am going to the security room. We have high-definition cameras covering every square inch of the platform area. If there was an imposter sitting at Kevin's desk, we have her on 4K video. I want to see it, I said. I have to see who they used. Mara hesitated. Technically, security footage is internal property. We usually only release it to law enforcement with a subpoena. My identity has been stolen inside your building, I said, holding her gaze. My trust fund was almost drained because your employee felt sorry for a fake version of me. You accepted a fax from my mother's bedroom as medical evidence. If you want me to wait for a subpoena, I will call my lawyer right now and we will have a very different conversation about negligence. Mara's expression didn't change. But I saw a flicker of respect in her eyes. She knew I was right. This wasn't a standard policy issue anymore. This was damage control. Come with me, Mara said. But you do not record anything on your phone. You watch, you identify, and then we call the police. Deal, I said. We walked out of Tessa's office. The bank was busier now. People were lining up for deposits, oblivious to the fact that a crime had been committed 20 feet away yesterday. I felt a surreal disconnect from them. They were living in a world where parents protected their children. I was living in a world where family first was a code word for absolute control. Mara led me to a heavy door behind the teller line. She swiped a keycard and punched in a 6-digit code. The door clicked open. The security room was small, cool, and smelled of ozone and stale coffee. A wall of monitors displayed every angle of the bank: the ATM vestibule, the vault entrance, the teller line, and the platform desks where the personal bankers sat. A security officer, a heavy-set man named Ralph, looked up from his console. Ms. Keene. Ralph, I need playback, Mara said, her voice crisp. Station 4, yesterday, 1400 hours to 1430. I need the audio feed if you have it, but definitely the overhead and the face-level angle, Ralph typed on his keyboard. Pulling it up now. My heart was pounding against my ribs. I was about to watch my parents commit a crime. I was about to see the phantom Adeline. Got it, Ralph said. Timestamp 14:15. On the large central monitor, the scene materialized. I saw them immediately. Derek Corbrook was wearing his favorite navy blazer, the one with the gold buttons. He looked authoritative, calm, the picture of a concerned patriarch. Lydia was next to him, wearing a soft beige cardigan, her hand resting on the back of the third person in the group. The third person sat in the chair I usually occupied. From the back, the illusion was terrifying. The woman had my hair color a specific shade of ash blonde that I maintained with expensive highlights. She was wearing a trench coat similar to one I owned. She was slumped forward, her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking slightly. Pause, Mara commanded. The image froze. That is exactly what the note said, Mara murmured. Distressed, hiding her face. Play, I said. I need to see her face. Ralph hit the key. The video resumed. On the screen, Kevin Miller, the young banker, slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was the power of attorney. Derek placed a hand on the woman's shoulder, leaning in to whisper something. It looked comforting, but I knew my father. He wasn't comforting her. He was cueing her. The woman reached out for the pen. Her hand was trembling. It was a good performance, a little too good. Then, she looked up. Just for a second. She turned her head toward Lydia, as if asking for permission to sign. The angle of the camera caught her profile. She was wearing large, dark sunglasses and a medical mask, the kind people still wore occasionally during flu season. It covered 70% of her face. She's covered, Mara said, frustrated. Smart. They used the sick narrative to mask her identity. Wait, I said. I leaned closer to the monitor. Go back 3 seconds. When she reaches for the pen. Ralph rewound the footage. The woman's arm extended. The sleeve of her trench coat rode up slightly. Stop, I said. Zoom in on the left wrist. The image pixelated slightly as Ralph zoomed in, but the detail was unmistakable. On the inside of the woman's left wrist, right where the pulse would be, there was a dark smudge. It wasn't dirt. It was ink. It was a tattoo. A small, black geometric shape. Maybe a star. Maybe a diamond. I don't have a tattoo, I said, holding up my own bare left wrist. I have never had a tattoo. My father threatened to disown me when I was 16 if I ever got one. Mara looked at the screen, then at my wrist. That is definitive proof. That is not you. No, I said, staring at the woman in the mask. There was something familiar about the way she held the pen, something familiar about the slump of her shoulders. It wasn't just a random actress. She's left-handed, I noted. Look, she's signing with her left hand. Are you left-handed? Mara asked. No, I said. I'm right-handed, but I know who that is. My mind raced through the roster of people my parents knew. Who was blonde? Who was desperate enough to do this? Who had a tattoo they usually hid? And then it clicked. The trench coat, the drama, the shaky, theatrical performance. But the money, Tessa said from the doorway, holding a plastic evidence bag containing the original papers. Why transfer it to a new account? Because they needed to secure it before I noticed, I said. Mara turned to me. We have enough. The fax header proves the doctor is fake. The video proves the client is fake. This is fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. What do we do now? I asked. Mara picked up the phone on the console. She didn't dial an extension this time. She dialed 9, then 1, then 1. Now, Mara said, her eyes fixed on the frozen image of my father's hand on the imposter's shoulder. We invite the police to watch this movie with us. The air in the security room was recycled and cold, humming with the low static of server fans, but I felt a line of sweat trace its way down my spine. We were huddled around the main monitor, Mara Keene, the branch manager, Ralph, the security officer, Tessa Lang, the trust officer, and me. We were watching a crime play out in silence, rendered in the high contrast, slightly grainy aesthetic of bank surveillance. Take it back to 1416, Mara directed, her voice cutting through the hum. I want to see the approach again. Ralph tapped a key. The video reversed, the figures moving backward in a jerky, unnatural rhythm, before resuming normal speed. On the screen, the automatic doors slid open. 3 figures walked in. It was a masterclass in body language. My father, Derek, led the way, even in the pixelated overhead angle. His stride was unmistakable, arrogant, purposeful. The walk of a man who owned the building. My mother, Lydia, was flanking the rear, her head swiveling slightly left and right, scanning the room like a perimeter check. And in the middle was the ghost. The woman they had hired to play me was good. I had to give them that. She wasn't just walking, she was performing. Her posture was collapsed inward, shoulders hunched up toward her ears, head down. She clutched a handbag to her chest like a shield. She looked fragile. She looked exactly like someone who had just been told their mind was breaking. Look at that, Mara said, pointing a manicured nail at the screen. See how your father steers her. He has his hand on her elbow the entire time. To an observer, it looks like support. But look at the grip. He is guiding her. He is physically moving her to the desk. They approached the platform area. Kevin Miller, the young banker who had processed the paperwork, stood up to greet them. The woman in the mask shrank back. My mother stepped forward, doing the talking. I could imagine the words without needing audio. She's having a hard day. We'll handle this. Fast forward to the signing, I said. I needed to see it again. I needed to be absolutely sure. The video jumped ahead. They were seated now. Papers were sliding across the mahogany desk. The power of attorney, the instrument of my destruction. Here, Ralph said. Frame by frame. The video slowed to a crawl. The imposter reached out with her left hand. She was wearing a heavy trench coat, the kind I wore in deep winter, which was odd for a mild June afternoon. It was part of the disguise, bulky enough to hide her body shape. As her arm extended across the desk to take the pen from Kevin, the cuff of the coat caught on the edge of the blotter. Just for a fraction of a second. The fabric pulled back. Stop, Mara commanded. Zoom. Enhance Sector 4. The image expanded. The grain became blocky, but the contrast was sharp enough. On the pale skin of the inner wrist, stark against the white of the paper underneath, was a dark smudge. It wasn't a shadow. It was defined. Sharp edges, a small geometric shape, black ink under skin. There, Mara said, her voice hard. Adeline, show us your arms. I rolled up the sleeves of my blazer. I held out both arms, turning them over under the harsh fluorescent lights of the security room. My skin was bare, pale, freckled, but ink-free. "I do not have a tattoo," I said. My voice was steady, but it felt like it was coming from someone else. "I have never had a tattoo. That person is a fraud." "That is definitive," Ralph muttered, noting the timestamp on his clipboard. "Subject identified as an imposter. Fraudulent impersonation confirmed." Watching the screen, I felt a wave of nausea. It wasn't just the crime. It was the intimacy of it. My parents were sitting on either side of this stranger, acting out a scene of family tragedy, using a fake daughter to destroy the real one. They sat so close to her. My mother even stroked the woman's hair at one point. It was grotesque, but the horror was about to get worse. While we were fixated on the video, Tessa had been quietly working on a laptop in the corner, logged into the bank's transaction mainframe. She had been tracing the movement of funds, looking for anything that might have slipped through before the main freeze. "Mara," Tessa said. Her voice was different. It wasn't the professional, clipped tone of a banker anymore. It was the sound of someone who had just found a body. We all turned. Tessa was staring at her screen, her face drained of color. "What is it?" Mara asked, stepping away from the surveillance console. "I thought we caught it in time," Tessa said. "The big wire. The $463,700 transfer. That one is blocked. It's sitting in the queue with a do not execute flag." "Right," I said. "So the money is safe." "The bulk of it is safe," Tessa corrected. "But I just ran a deep history on the trust account's activity for the last 24 hours. I looked for small transfers, things that stay under the federal reporting radar." My stomach tightened. "What did you find?" "Structuring," Tessa said. "Yesterday, at 4:30 in the afternoon, right after the power of attorney was keyed into the system, 2 transfers were initiated. Instant clearing." She turned the laptop so we could see. "Transfer out, $6,500. Transfer out $9,800. They moved $16,300. I calculated instantly. Why those amounts? Anything over $10,000 triggers a currency transaction report to the IRS, Mara explained, her eyes narrowing. They kept it just under the limit. $9,800 is the classic structuring amount. It shows they know exactly how the banking compliance software works. They wanted cash immediately, probably to pay the imposter or cover their tracks, without tripping a federal alarm. "Where did the money go?" I asked. "Did they wire it to their personal accounts?" "No," Tessa said. "If they sent it to their own accounts, it would be too easy to trace and reverse. They sent it to an internal account. A new account opened at this branch yesterday, concurrent with the power of attorney filing." "What is the account name?" Mara demanded. Tessa highlighted the line. "Corbrook Household Operations." I stared at the name. It sounded so benign, so administrative. Like a petty cash fund for groceries or lawn care. "Who are the signatories?" I asked. "It has to be Derek and Lydia, right?" Tessa clicked on the account details. The screen refreshed to show the signature card, the digital record of who owned the account. "Primary account holder Derek Corbrook," Tessa read. I nodded. That was expected. "Joint account holder," Tessa continued, and then she stopped. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and pity. She didn't want to say the name. "Who is it?" I demanded. "Is it my mother?" "No," Tessa said softly. "It is not Lydia Corbrook." She turned the screen fully toward me. There, in black and white pixels, was the name of the second owner of the account that had just received my stolen money, Adam Westlake. The room went silent. The hum of the servers seemed to vanish. The only thing I could hear was the rushing of blood in my ears, a roar like the ocean. "Adam," I whispered. I blinked, waiting for the name to change, waiting for it to be a mistake. But it sat there, bold and accusing. Adam Westlake, my husband, the man who had kissed me goodbye this morning, the man who was currently at our house, looking for my tax returns to help me. "That's impossible," I said. My voice cracked. "Adam isn't here. Adam wasn't here yesterday. He was at work. He works for a tech startup in Boulder. He doesn't even bank here. The account was opened in person, Tessa said, her voice gentle but relentless in its delivery of the facts. Yesterday, at the same time the power of attorney was filed. Show me the signature card, Mara ordered. Tessa clicked a button. The digital image of the signature card popped up. It was a standard new account form, Corbrook Household Operations, and at the bottom, there were two signatures. One was Derek's sharp, angular scrawl. The other was Adam's. I looked at it. I knew my husband's signature better than my own. I saw it on birthday cards, on our marriage license, on the checks he wrote for the plumber. It was a messy, looping script. The signature on the screen was disturbing. It looked like Adam's. It had the same slant, the same way the W in Westlake looped at the top. But it was just like the forgery of my own name. It lacked the soul of the real thing. It was too precise. He didn't sign this, I said, but the conviction in my voice was thinner this time. He couldn't have. Adeline, Mara said, moving closer to me. I need you to listen carefully. This account is a joint ownership account with right of survivorship, legally. This means Adam Westlake is now in possession of the $16,000 that was stolen from you. Even if he didn't sign it, his name is on the ledger. He is an accomplice on paper. Why? I asked, looking between Mara and Tessa. Why would they put him on the account? Why not just keep it between themselves? Leverage, Ralph said from the security console. He was looking at the situation like a cop, not a banker. If you go to the police, you aren't just reporting your parents. You are reporting your husband. They tied him to the crime. If the ship sinks, he goes down with them. I grabbed the edge of the console to steady myself. The floor felt like it was dissolving. This was their masterstroke. This was why Derek had sounded so calm on the phone. Family first. They knew I would fight them. They knew I would hire lawyers. They knew I would burn the bridge to save my independence. But they also knew the one thing I valued more than the money, my marriage. They had framed Adam. Is there any video of Adam here? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Please, Ralph, check the lobby. Was my husband here yesterday? Ralph scanned the footage again. He checked the entrance logs. He checked the side cameras. No, Ralph said after a long, agonizing minute. I have visual on Derek, Lydia, and the female imposter. I do not see a male matching your husband's description entering the branch. He wasn't here, I said, letting out a breath I didn't know I was holding. He wasn't here. They forged his signature too. But how did they get his ID? Tessa asked. To open an account, you need two forms of identification, a driver's license and a secondary ID. We scanned them into the system. If Adam wasn't here, how did they present his license? Tessa clicked on the KYC tab. Know your customer. This was where the ID scans were stored. She opened the file. There, on the screen, was a clear, high-resolution scan of Adam's Colorado driver's license. It wasn't a photocopy. It was the license itself, scanned through the bank's card reader. I stared at the photo of Adam. He was smiling. It was the picture he took 2 years ago. How? I asked. His license is in his wallet. He has it with him right now. And then, a memory hit me. A small, seemingly insignificant moment from last week. We had been at my parents' house for dinner. It was a rare truce. My mother had been surprisingly attentive, asking about Adam's new car. Then, during dessert, she had asked to borrow his phone to take a picture of the soufflé because hers was dead. Adam had handed it over. But had she asked for anything else, I closed my eyes. Replaying the night, Adam had left his jacket on the chair in the foyer. His wallet was in the jacket pocket. I remembered my father excusing himself to go to the bathroom. He was gone for a long time. 10 minutes, maybe 15. They stole it, I said, opening my eyes. They didn't steal the wallet. They took it out, scanned it or photographed it, and put it back. But this, I pointed at the screen. This is a digital scan. You can't do this with a photo on a phone. Unless, Mara said darkly, they made a color copy, a very high-quality fake ID. If they went to the trouble of hiring an actress and faking a doctor's letter, manufacturing a fake ID card with Adam's info and someone else's face, or just using his real info is well within their capability. Or, Tessa said, the banker, Kevin, if he was already compromised enough to accept a fake POA, maybe he manually bypassed the card scan. Maybe he just uploaded a file they gave him on a USB drive. He's involved, Mara said, her face tightening. Kevin is either the most incompetent banker in Colorado, or he is on their payroll. But I wasn't thinking about Kevin. I was thinking about Adam. My parents had weaponized my husband against me. By putting his name on that account, they ensured that any fraud investigation would immediately freeze his assets, too. His credit score would be destroyed. He could lose his security clearance at his tech job. If I prosecuted them, I prosecuted him. This is a trap, I said. It's a poison pill. If I blow this up, Adam gets hit with the shrapnel. Mrs. Westlake, Mara said, we have to report this. The suspicious activity report goes to FinCEN automatically. We can't stop the federal train once it starts. I know, I said. I pulled out my phone. I looked at Adam's text thread. The last message was from 10 minutes ago. Found the tax returns. Also found a weird letter from a Dr. Vance in the trash. What is going on? Addie. He was innocent. I knew it in my gut. But looking at that screen, at his name tied to the theft of my inheritance, I realized that truth didn't matter as much as evidence. And right now, the evidence said my husband was a bank robber. I need a copy of that signature card, I said to Tessa. And I need a copy of the ID scan. Adeline, Mara warned, you cannot confront them with this yet. If they know we know, they will destroy whatever other evidence they have. I'm not going to confront my parents, I said, taking the printout Tessa handed me. My hands were finally steady, hardened by a cold. Sharp resolve. I'm going home to interrogate my husband, because before I go to war with the Corbrooks, I need to make sure the man sleeping in my bed isn't a double agent. I looked at the screen one last time at the grainy footage of the imposter, and the crisp digital lie of Adam's involvement. They wanted to isolate me, I said. They wanted me to doubt everyone but them. I turned and walked out of the security room. The bright lights of the lobby felt blinding now. I had walked in here fighting for my money. I was walking out fighting for my life. Mara Keene was not shouting, which somehow made the situation more terrifying. She stood behind her desk, the receiver pressed to her ear, her voice dropping to that flat, bureaucratic monotone that signals the end of a negotiation and the beginning of a prosecution. Yes, officer. We are at the Stoneford Trust branch on 4th and Main. I have a confirmed identity theft in progress. I have a fraudulent power of attorney document, video evidence of an imposter, and unauthorized transfers involving a trust account. The dollar amount attempted was $463,700. The amount successfully misappropriated is $16,300. Yes, we have the account holder here. We are locking down the facility's evidence logs now. She hung up and looked at me. A patrol unit is 5 minutes out. They will take a preliminary report, but this will get kicked up to the Financial Crimes Division by the end of the day. I sat in the client chair, my hands folded in my lap. I felt strangely detached, like I was watching a documentary about someone else's life. The adrenaline had burned off, leaving behind a cold, crystalline clarity. They will deny it, I said. My parents, they will say I'm confused. They will say I asked them to do it. They will say the woman in the video is a friend I sent because I was too sick to come myself. The video shows the woman signing your name, Tessa Lang said from her computer. That is forgery. Adeline, it does not matter if you gave them permission or not, you cannot delegate the signing of a legal instrument to an imposter in a bank lobby. That is a felony. I knew she was right, but I needed them to admit it. I needed a confession before the police arrived, before their lawyers told them to shut up. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over the message thread with my father. The last message was from 3 weeks ago. Sunday dinner, Mom made roast. I typed a single sentence. I stripped it of emotion. I stripped it of accusation. I made it a simple, confused question, the kind a scared daughter would ask. Why am I locked out of the trust? I hit send. I placed the phone on Mara's desk, face up. He won't answer, Mara predicted. If he is smart, he will go dark. He is smart, I said, but he is also arrogant. He thinks he owns me. 30 seconds passed. The silence in the office was heavy. Then, the phone buzzed. A single, short vibration that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. I looked at the screen. Derek Corbrook. We had to take steps. You are not well. Family first. We are protecting the assets until you recover. Don't make a scene and embarrass us. I felt a bitter smile touch my lips. There it was. Family first. The shield they used to justify every violation, every boundary crossed, every piece of control they exerted. He didn't deny doing it. He justified it. He just confessed to the motive, I said, showing the screen to Mara. He admits he took steps to protect the assets. He admits he locked me out. Screenshot that, Mara ordered. Email it to me. As I was forwarding the image, a commotion erupted in the lobby. I heard the heavy glass doors slide open, followed by the sound of rapid footsteps on the marble floor. Adeline. I turned. Through the glass wall of the office. I saw Adam. He looked frantic. His tie was crooked, his hair windblown, and he was clutching a manila folder so tightly his knuckles were white. He spotted me and rushed toward the office. Ignoring the receptionist trying to intercept him, Mara moved to the door and opened it. Mr. Westlake. Yes, Adam panted, stepping inside. He looked at me, his eyes wide with panic. Addie, I got your text. I came as fast as I could. I brought the tax returns, the marriage license, everything I could find. What is happening? The police are pulling into the parking lot. He looked so genuine. He looked like the man I had married, the earnest, slightly disorganized tech guy who loved craft beer and hiking. He reached out to hug me. But I didn't stand up. I didn't lean into him. I stayed seated, my back rigid against the leather chair. Sit down, Adam, I said. He froze, his arms halfway extended. He saw the look on my face. It wasn't fear. It was an interrogation. Addie. He lowered his arms slowly. You're scaring me. Did they take the money? They took $16,300, I said. And they tried to take the rest. Oh, God, Adam said, collapsing into the chair next to me. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay, but we can get it back. Right, it's fraud. The bank has insurance. We are freezing everything, Mara said, moving back behind her desk. But there is a complication. Mr. Westlake. What complication? Adam asked, looking between us. If Derek and Lydia stole it, just arrest them. I picked up the printout of the signature card Tessa had given me. I placed it on the desk, sliding it toward him. We found where the money went, I said. It was transferred to a new account opened yesterday, an operations account for managing my care. Adam looked at the paper. Corbrook Household Operations. That sounds like something your dad would invent. Pompous jerk. Look at the account holders. Adam, I said softly. He looked down. He read the first line. Derek Corbrook. He nodded. Then his eyes moved to the second line. He stopped breathing. I watched his chest. It simply stopped moving. What is this? He whispered. He looked up at me, his face draining of color until he looked sick. Why is my name on this? That is what we would like to know, Mara said. This account was opened yesterday afternoon. It requires 2 forms of ID and a signature. I didn't open this, Adam said. His voice rose in pitch. I wasn't here, Addie. I was at work. You know I was at work. I sent you a picture of my lunch from the cafeteria. I know, I said. But your name is on the account that received my stolen money, and legally, that makes you a beneficiary of the theft. This is crazy, Adam said. He grabbed the paper, staring at it. This signature, is that supposed to be me? It looks like you, Tessa observed. Does it not? Adam squinted at the ink. No, it doesn't. Look at the W. When I sign Westlake, I loop the top of the W. It's a habit from when I was a kid. This W is sharp. It's jagged. He pushed the paper back toward Mara. That is not my signature. It's a trace. Someone traced it. It has a tilt, I said, speaking for the first time in minutes. Do you see it? It leans to the left about 10 degrees more than your normal writing, like someone was holding the pen at an awkward angle, or like someone who is right-handed was trying to copy the flow of a left-handed person. Adam looked at me, desperation in his eyes. Addie, you have to believe me. I would never do this. I hate your parents. Why would I help them steal from you? Because they have leverage, I suggested, testing him. Because maybe you are in debt. Maybe they offered you a cut. I am not in debt, Adam shouted. Then he lowered his voice, realizing where he was. I have a 700 credit score. We share our finances. You know everything I spend. He was right. I did know his finances. But I also knew my parents. They didn't recruit partners. They entrapped them. Think back to last week, I said. Tuesday night, dinner at their house. Adam blinked. The roast chicken? Yes, I said. Think about after dinner. My mother asked for your phone. Adam frowned, searching his memory. Yeah. She said her battery was dead and she wanted to take a picture of the dessert to send to her sister. I gave it to her. How long did she have it? I asked. I don't know. 5 minutes. She went into the kitchen to get better light. And where was your wallet? In my jacket, Adam said. On the chair in the hall. And where was my father? Adam paused. His mouth opened slightly. He went to the bathroom while your mom was in the kitchen. He wasn't in the bathroom, I said. He was in the hall. He took your wallet. He took your license. He scanned it or photographed it. And while my mother had your phone, she didn't just take a picture of a cake. She probably went through your photos to find a document you had signed. Or maybe she just distracted you so you wouldn't hear Derek rifling through your pockets. Adam looked horrified. They framed me to keep you from fighting back. It is a classic poison pill, Mara noted. If Adeline presses charges, the investigation automatically targets all account holders. That includes you. Adam put his head in his hands. I'm going to lose my clearance. If I get flagged for banking fraud, Ravenheart will suspend me pending an investigation. I could lose my job. That is exactly what they want, I said. They want us both vulnerable. They want us both broke and dependent. The phone on Mara's desk beeped. It was the internal line. This is compliance, Mara said, hitting the speaker button. I have the digital forensics team from headquarters on the line. They have been analyzing the metadata of the power of attorney document that was uploaded to our system. A male voice, sharp and tinny, filled the room. Ms. Keene, we have completed the initial scrub of the PDF file, POA_Corbrook_A_executed. We found something interesting in the creation logs. Go ahead, Mara said. The document was not created on a standard bank terminal, the voice said. The metadata shows the PDF was generated using Adobe Acrobat Pro. The original author tag is Derek Corbrook, but the machine ID where the final save occurred, the machine that actually finalized the file before it was put on a USB drive, is named Westlake-MBP. The room went dead silent. I looked at Adam. His face had gone from pale to a terrifying shade of gray. Westlake MBP, I repeated. Westlake MacBook Pro. Adam stared at the speakerphone as if it were a bomb. That's my laptop. That's the name of my laptop. How did my father create a fraudulent power of attorney on your laptop? Adam, I asked. My voice was very quiet. You said you weren't involved. I'm not, Adam stammered. I swear to God, Addie, I haven't seen your father since that dinner. Did you bring your laptop to the dinner? I asked. No, it stays at home. It stays in my office. Then how? I demanded. Metadata doesn't lie. That file was saved on your machine. Adam was shaking his head, his eyes darting around the room. He looked like a trapped animal. I don't know. I don't know. Then he stopped. His eyes locked on mine. Wait, he said. The cloud. What? We share an iCloud family plan, Adam said, the words tumbling out. Your parents, last Christmas. Remember your dad complained about losing his contacts, and you added them to our family sharing group so you could back up their phones. We all share the same cloud storage pool. I felt a chill go through me. He was right. I had done that. I had thought I was being helpful. If he has access to the shared drive, Adam said, his voice gaining strength. And if my laptop is set to sync documents automatically, could he have saved it to the shared folder from his computer? And my computer synced it. Compliance, Mara barked at the speaker. Is that possible? Could the Westlake MBP tag indicate a sync point rather than an origin point? It is possible, the voice admitted. If the file was modified in a shared directory, the metadata might pick up the ID of the last machine that indexed it, but it's risky. It implies he has remote access to your file system. He doesn't have remote access, I said, but he has my password. Adam looked at me. What? My old password, I said. The one I used for everything until last year. Addy 1990. I changed it on my bank, but I never changed it on the family cloud account because I didn't think it mattered. I looked at my husband. He wasn't the traitor. He was the door, and I had left the key under the mat. They used us, I said, feeling the full weight of the betrayal. They used your name, your laptop, your ID, and my old password. They didn't just break in, Adam. They walked in through the digital doors we left open. So it looks like I did it, Adam said. Realizing the horror of the setup, to any investigator, it looks like I drafted the document on my laptop, signed it, and then opened the account to receive the money. Exactly, Mara said. And proving otherwise is going to require a forensic audit of your hard drive. Take it, Adam said immediately. He reached into his messenger bag and pulled out his sleek silver MacBook. He slammed it onto Mara's desk. Take it. Audit it. I don't care. Tear it apart. He looked at me, his eyes fierce. I did not do this. Addie, I am on your side. If they want to frame me, let them try. But I am not letting them take you. For the first time since I saw the red line on my screen. I felt a crack in the ice around my heart. He was willing to surrender his privacy, his primary work tool, his defense, just to prove he was with me. Mara, I said, log the laptop as evidence voluntarily surrendered by Mr. Westlake. Scan it. Prove the file was a sync, not a creation. I will, Mara said. She looked out the window. The police are here. 2 officers just walked through the front door. I stood up. I looked at Adam. This is going to get ugly. They are going to separate us. They are going to question you as a suspect. Let them, Adam said, standing up to stand beside me. I'd rather be a suspect on your side than a free man on theirs. Okay, I said. I took his hand. It was cold, but his grip was hard. We turned to face the glass door as the 2 uniformed officers approached, led by the receptionist. Officers, Mara said, stepping out to meet them. I am Mara Keene, branch manager. This is a federal banking crime scene. We have a lot to cover. I watched them approach, and I knew that the next 24 hours would determine the rest of my life. My parents had built a perfect cage, constructed from legal loopholes, digital backdoors, and emotional manipulation. They thought I would be too scared of hurting Adam to fight back. They thought I would fold to save my marriage. They didn't understand. I wasn't fighting to save my marriage anymore. I was fighting to avenge it. Officer, I said as the policeman stopped in front of me, I want to file a report against Derek and Lydia Corbrook, and I want to request a welfare check on myself, to be placed on the official record that I'm standing here. sane, sober, and furious. The pen in my hand felt heavy, like a lead weight. I was sitting at a small round table in Mara Keene's office, filling out a sworn affidavit for the Marrow Ridge Police Department. Officer Hernandez, a young guy with a high and tight haircut and a skepticism that seemed etched into his jawline, stood by the door. He was watching me, not aggressively, but with that professional detachment that weighs every twitch, every hesitation. I signed the bottom of page 3, Adeline Corbrook. The ink was still wet when my phone, resting face up on the desk, lit up again. It wasn't a text message this time. It was a push notification from the bank app. Security alert. Your mailing address has been updated. I stared at it. My heart did that familiar double thump against my ribs. I picked up the phone and tapped the alert. The screen refreshed, showing the new address on file for all physical correspondence related to the trust. 404 Oak Lane, Denver, Colorado. I didn't need to check Google Maps. I knew that house. I knew the smell of the cedar closet in the hallway. I knew the exact squeak of the third step on the staircase. It was my parents' house. They just changed my address, I said, my voice flat. I held the phone up for Mara to see. Mara's eyes narrowed behind her glasses. She didn't look surprised. She looked angry. She slammed her hand down on her desk. A sharp, violent sound that made Officer Hernandez jump. Mail diversion, Mara spat out. They are trying to intercept the fraud notices. When we flagged the account earlier, the system automatically generates a physical letter to the address on record. By changing it to their house, they ensure you never see the warning. They want to be the ones who open the letter that says, "Suspicious activity detected." They want to control the information flow, I said. If I don't get the mail, I don't know the timeline. It is smarter than that, Mara said, typing furiously to reverse the change. If they control the address, they control the jurisdiction. They are trying to establish that you are living with them, or at least that your center of gravity is in Denver. Not here in Marrow Ridge. It helps their case for guardianship. Guardianship, the word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, as if summoned by the word. A text message banner slid down the top of my screen. Mom. Stop this nonsense. Adeline, if you continue to resist our help, we will have no choice but to file for emergency guardianship. We have the medical history to support it. Don't force us to do this. I read it aloud. My voice didn't shake. I wouldn't let it. Officer Hernandez stepped forward. Ma'am, did you say guardianship? Yes, I said, showing him the text. They are threatening to take away my legal autonomy because I caught them stealing my money. Hernandez sighed. Shifting his weight, he unclipped the radio from his shoulder. That explains the dispatch. What dispatch? I asked. About 10 minutes ago, Hernandez said, looking uncomfortable. We received a call requesting a welfare check at this location. The caller identified himself as a concerned father. He stated that his daughter, Adeline Westlake, was at the bank, suffering from a manic episode, and was likely being manipulated by a third party to drain her accounts. I felt the blood drain from my face. They weren't just reacting. They were coordinating an airstrike. They called the police on me while I was filing a report on them. He told you I was unstable, I said. It wasn't a question. He said you were agitated, paranoid, and making false accusations. Hernandez recited from memory. He looked at me closely. He said you might be a danger to yourself. I sat very still. This was the trap. If I got angry, if I yelled, if I started crying about how unfair this was, I would match the description in the dispatch, agitated, paranoid. I would validate their lie. I took a deep breath, counting to 3. I placed my hands flat on the table. Officer Hernandez, I said, my voice lower, slower. I am the compliance director for a firm that audits federal contractors. I have a credit score of 800. I have never been arrested. I have never been involuntarily committed. My parents just attempted to wire $463,700 out of my trust fund using a forged signature. When that failed, they called you to discredit me before I could file charges. I looked him dead in the eye. Does that sound like paranoia to you? Or does it sound like a cover-up? Hernandez looked at me. Then he looked at the pile of evidence Mara had printed out, the fax header, the surveillance still of the imposter, the audit trail. It sounds like a cover-up, Hernandez admitted. He keyed his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 4. I am at the scene. Subject is calm, cooperative, and lucid. No signs of distress. Cancel the welfare check. Note that the subject is currently filing a criminal complaint against the reporting party. I let out a breath. That was one bullet dodged, but the barrage wasn't over. My personal phone was quiet, but Adam's phone, which was sitting on the desk next to his laptop, pinged, then it pinged again. Adam picked it up. He frowned. It's a LinkedIn notification and an email forward. From who? I asked. From Sarah. Adam said, Your HR director at Ravenheart? My stomach dropped. Ravenheart Compliance Group was my career. It was the one place where I was respected purely for my brain, not my last name. Read it, I said. Adam hesitated. Addie, you don't want to hear this. Read it, Adam. He cleared his throat. Subject urgent personnel concern. Adeline, I just received a very disturbing email from a Derek Corbrook claiming to be your medical proxy. He attached a document stating you are undergoing a severe mental health crisis and requested that we suspend your access to sensitive client files immediately for liability reasons. He's asking for your short-term disability paperwork to be sent to his email address. I closed my eyes. It was a scorched earth tactic. They knew that in my line of work, compliance and auditing reputation was everything. A hint of instability could cost me my security clearance. They were trying to get me fired. If I had no job, I had no income. If I had no income, I couldn't pay a lawyer. If I couldn't pay a lawyer, they won. They are trying to starve me out, I whispered. Sarah is asking what to do, Adam said. She says she hasn't clicked the attachment yet because it looks suspicious. Tell her not to open it, I said, snapping back into professional mode. Tell her it is a phishing attempt containing malware or fraudulent legal documents. Tell her I will call her in 20 minutes. I turned to Mara. I need a lawyer, not a criminal lawyer. I need a pit bull, someone who specializes in contested conservatorships and high-asset family disputes. I have a name, Mara said. Elias Thorne. He hates the banks, but he hates overreaching parents more. He's expensive. I don't care, I said. Adam, give me the phone. I dialed the number Mara wrote down. While it rang, I turned back to the banker. Mara, lock it down harder. I want a verbal passphrase on the account, something that cannot be guessed, something that isn't my mother's maiden name or my first pet. Standard procedure, Mara said, her fingers poised over the keyboard. What is the phrase? I thought about it. I needed something my parents would never say, something they didn't even know existed in my world. Blueberry, I said. Adam looked at me and smiled. A sad, fleeting thing. It was the name of the ugly stray cat we had fed for 2 weeks when we first started dating. My parents didn't know about the cat. They didn't know about anything real in my life. Passphrase set, Mara said. Blueberry, unless the caller says that word. We don't even acknowledge the account exists. Good, I said. Now the credit bureaus. I spent the next 10 minutes in a frenzy of administrative defense. I logged into Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. I placed a freeze on my social security number. I set up fraud alerts. Every click felt like I was boarding up windows before a hurricane. Then I realized something else. My medical records, I said. Lydia has my login for the patient portal. From when I had my appendix out 3 years ago, she insisted on monitoring my recovery. I logged into the MyChart app. My password was still the old one. Addie, 1990, the same one they had used to crack Adam's laptop. I changed it immediately. I enabled two-factor authentication. I went through the authorized users list. There she was. Lydia Corbrook. Full proxy access. I hit revoke access. The screen spun for a second, then confirmed access removed. It felt like cutting an umbilical cord made of barbed wire. They are going to know, Adam said quietly. As soon as you do that, she gets an email saying her access was terminated. Let her get it, I said. Let her know the door is shut. I looked at Adam. He was still holding his MacBook, the sleek silver machine that had been weaponized against us. The metadata said Westlake-MBP. As long as that tag existed, Adam was a suspect. The lawyer, I said, pointing to the phone where I had left a voicemail for Elias Thorne. He's going to say we need to surrender the device. If we wait for a subpoena, it looks like we are hiding evidence. If we hand it over now, it looks like cooperation. Adam looked down at the laptop. It contained his entire life, his work projects, his private journals, his photos, his search history. Giving it to the police meant strangers would comb through every digital corner of his existence. I have proprietary code on here for work, Adam said. If they leak it, they won't, Mara said. We can have the forensic team isolate the relevant sectors, but Adeline is right. If you walk out of here with that laptop, the police will assume you are going home to wipe it. Officer Hernandez was waiting. He had a plastic evidence bag ready. Adam took a deep breath. He looked at me. There was no hesitation in his eyes anymore, only a grim sort of resolve. He closed the lid of the MacBook. Do it, Adam said. He handed the laptop to Hernandez. The officer slid it into the bag and sealed it with red tape. Evidence. We will need your passcode, Hernandez said. Adam wrote it down on a piece of paper. He handed it over. You're naked now, I said softly to him. Digitally speaking. I don't care, Adam said. They tried to make me the villain. Addie. They tried to make me the reason you lost everything. I'm not playing their game. If I have to burn my privacy to prove I'm your husband, then strike the match. Mara looked at us. Her expression had softened. You two are building a fortress, she said. But be ready. The welfare check failed. The bank theft failed. The HR attack is stalling. They are running out of quiet options. What's the loud option? I asked. The loud option, Mara said, is that they stop trying to trick the system and start trying to break you physically. They will come to your house, they will come to your door, and they will bring papers that allow them to drag you out. Let them come, I said. I stood up. I felt lighter. Stripped of the illusion that I had parents who loved me, I was an orphan now, by choice and by necessity. Officer, I said to Hernandez, I want a copy of that welfare check report. I want it noted that the call was malicious. I'll attach it to the case file, Hernandez said. But Mrs. Westlake, watch your back. People who make false police reports don't usually stop at one. I know, I said. I'm counting on it. We walked out of the bank into the harsh midday sun. My phone buzzed again. Another email. This time from Elias Thorne, the lawyer. I got your message. I'm reviewing the details. Do not speak to your parents. Do not open your door to anyone but law enforcement. I am filing a counter-petition for a restraining order this afternoon. We are going to nuke their guardianship claim before it hits the judge's desk. I showed the email to Adam. We have a lawyer, I said. We have the police report. We have the bank on our side. Adam put his arm around me. It felt different than before. It wasn't protective. It was a partnership. We were soldiers in the same trench. Let's go home, Adam said. We need to change the locks. We need to do more than that, I said, looking at the road that led to our house. We need to prepare for a siege. Elias Thorne's office did not look like a place where families were reunited. It looked like a place where they were dismantled, piece by billable piece. Located on the 30th floor of a Glass Needle in downtown Denver, it smelled of espresso and expensive leather. Elias himself was a man of sharp angles and sharper suits, the kind of lawyer who didn't raise his voice because he knew the law shouted loud enough on its own. I sat opposite him, Adam next to me. We had been there for an hour. laying out the timeline, the red line on the app, the facts from my mother's bedroom, the imposter in the bank lobby, and the digital framing of my husband. Elias listened without taking a single note. When I finished, he leaned back, tenting his fingers. "We have enough for a defense," Elias said. His voice was dry, precise. "But you don't want a defense. You want a decapitation." "I want them to stop," I said. "I want to make sure they can never touch my money, my husband, or my sanity ever again." "Then we need to stop reacting and start steering," Elias said. "Right now, they are throwing stones to see which glass breaks. The welfare check, the HR email, the bank fraud. They are frantic. We need to give them a reason to walk into a trap." He turned to the speakerphone on his desk. Mara Keene was on the line from the bank branch in Marrow Ridge. "Mara," Elias said, "confirm the status of the account triggers." "Confirmed," Mara's voice came through, crisp and metallic. "We have placed a global watch on the Corbrook Trust and all affiliated profiles. If anyone attempts to use the power of attorney, change an address, add a beneficiary, or even query the balance from a non-authorized IP, the system doesn't just block it, it silently flags compliance and auto-generates a report to the Marrow Ridge Police Department. We call it a silent alarm. They won't know they have tripped it until the police show up." "Good," Elias said. He looked at me. "Now, Adeline, we need to get them to commit their narrative to writing." The text message they sent earlier about family first is useful, but vague. We need them to explicitly link your alleged incapacity to their financial control. We need them to say, in plain English, that they are taking the money because they think you are crazy. "They won't just say that," Adam argued. "Derek is too careful." "He is careful when he thinks he is winning," Elias corrected. "He is sloppy when he is angry. We need to provoke him. But we do it with kindness. We do it with bureaucracy." He slid a notepad toward me. "Send him this. Exactly this." I looked at the script. It was infuriatingly passive. "Dad, I am confused by the bank lockout. If you and Mom are truly worried about my health, I am willing to discuss a care plan. But we must do it through proper legal channels. Have your counsel reach out to mine so we can address this openly. This reads as weak," I said, like I'm giving in. "It reads like a sane, reasonable person requesting a conversation." Elias replied, "If you were truly manic, the way they're alleging, you'd be yelling. You'd be making threats. Sending this creates a time-stamped record that you're clear-headed, and more than that, it strips them of the moral high ground. You're insisting on proper legal channels. Derek can't stand lawyers he doesn't control. He's going to hate knowing you have one." I lifted my phone and typed it out. My thumb hung over the send button. A wave of nausea rolled through me. Reaching back toward them felt like cracking a door I'd just slammed and locked. "Send it," Adam murmured. "Let him reveal his hand." I pressed send. We waited. The office air felt heavy with strain. A minute went by, then another. Then my phone vibrated. "Don't read it yet," Elias said. "Sharp. Let it sit. Let's see if he double texts. Desperation usually comes in pairs." Sure enough, 10 seconds later, a second buzz. "Now," Elias said. I picked up the phone and read the screen. "Derek, we don't need lawyers involved in family matters. This is exactly the kind of paranoia Dr. Vance warned us about. You are not competent to hire counsel right now. Derek. The money stays under management until you are cleared. We are the only ones who can authorize your expenses. Stop fighting us and go to the clinic." "Got him," Elias said, a shark-like smile touching his lips. "He just tied the money directly to your medical status. The money stays under management until you are cleared. That is an admission of fiduciary control based on a disputed medical claim. If that medical claim is proven false, he is admitted to theft by deception." "We know the medical claim is false," I said. "We have the fax header." "We need more than a fax header," Elias said. "We need the source." The door to the office opened. A young woman in a hoodie and jeans walked in, carrying a laptop. This was not a paralegal. This was the forensic specialist Elias used for digital discovery. Her name was Chloe. We finished the mirror image of the MacBook, Chloe said, placing Adam's laptop, or rather, the data cloned from it on the desk. Mr. Westlake, you were right to surrender it. It's a goldmine. Adam sat up straighter. Did you find the file? We found the ghost file, Chloe said. The power of attorney PDF was indeed present on your hard drive, but as you suspected, it wasn't created there, it was synced. She connected her laptop to the large wall monitor. A complex tree of file directories appeared. Here is the metadata, Chloe explained, using a laser pointer. The file POA_CORBROOK_A_E_X ECUTED.pdf appeared in your iCloud Drive folder yesterday at 10:15 in the morning. However, the user ID that pushed the file to the cloud wasn't yours. She clicked a tab. A string of numbers and letters appeared. Source IP 192.168 ISP Comcast Business. Geolocation 404 Oak Lane, Denver. That is my parents' house, I said. That is their home office IP. It gets better, Chloe said, because the file was synced to your machine. Your MacBook created a temporary shadow copy in the cache folder. Computers do this to speed up opening files. Usually, these temp files are overwritten. But because you didn't open the file, you didn't even know it was there, the cache remained intact. What does the cache show? Adam asked. It shows the edit history, Chloe said. They didn't just upload a finished PDF. They uploaded a folder containing the drafts. She opened a folder on the screen labeled temp_cache_recov_09. My breath hitched. It was a gallery of horrors. There were 5 versions of the capacity letter. The first one was a Word document with track changes still visible. I saw notes in the margins. Comment from LC. Make it sound more urgent. Use words like immediate intervention. LC was Lydia Corbrook. My mother was editing my medical diagnosis like it was a press release. Next to the letter drafts were image files, high-resolution scans. Is that? I leaned forward. Your old driver's license, Chloe confirmed. The one that expired 2 years ago, and here's a sheet of white paper with your signature practiced 20 times. You can see where they were trying to get the loop on the A right. They treated it like an art project, I said, feeling sick. They practiced forging my name while sitting at their kitchen table. And here, Chloe said, clicking on the final file, is the smoking gun for the notary. The power of attorney document had a notary stamp on it. State of Colorado. Commission expires 2026. Name, Sarah Jenkins. We ran the notary, Elias said. Sarah Jenkins is a real notary. She works for a mobile service called QuickSign. They dispatch notaries to homes and hospitals. Did she knowingly notarize a fake signature, I asked, or was she tricked too? We pulled the booking record from QuickSign, Chloe said. They keep a digital log of who requests the service. The appointment was booked for yesterday at 9 in the morning. Location the Corbrook residence. Who booked it? Adam asked. Derek. No, Chloe said. The name on the booking order, and the credit card used to pay for it, belongs to a Brielle Hart. The name hit me like a physical blow. Brielle, I repeated. My cousin Brielle. The one with the twins, Adam asked, shocked. The one we sent a gift card to last Christmas because her husband lost his job. That's the one, I said. Brielle Hart was my mother's niece. She was 5 years younger than me. She was sweet, scattered, and perpetually in financial trouble. She had 3 kids under 6, a husband who worked sporadic construction jobs, and a mountain of credit card debt. Why would Brielle do this? I asked. She likes me. We grew up together. She doesn't hate you, Elias said. She just needs your mother more than she likes you. Lydia owns her, I realized. Mom paid off Brielle's car loan last year. She mentioned it at Thanksgiving. She held it over Brielle's head all dinner. I'm just so glad we could help you keep your wheels, dear. Leverage, Adam said bitterly. It's always leverage. So Brielle hired the notary, Elias summarized, which means Brielle was likely in the room when the forgery happened. She saw the imposter, or maybe she was the imposter. No, I said, shaking my head. Brielle is petite. The woman in the video was tall. Brielle wasn't the fake Adeline. She was the witness. I looked at the notary block on the screen again. Witness 1 Brielle Hart. She had signed it. She had watched someone else sign my name. And then she had signed hers right next to it, certifying that it was me. She committed perjury, Elias said. And fraud, and conspiracy. If we hand this to the police, Brielle Hart goes to prison. Her kids go into foster care. I closed my eyes. I thought of Brielle's twins. I thought of how tired she always looked. My parents hadn't just come for me. They had cannibalized their own niece to do it. They had weaponized her desperation. I don't want Brielle in prison, I said. She's a pawn. She is a pawn who can take down the king and queen, Elias said. We don't need to put her in jail. We need to put her on the stand. How? We offer her a deal, Elias said. We approach her before the police do. We offer to advocate for limited immunity in exchange for a full allocution. She tells us everything who called her, what they promised her, how they coached the imposter. She gives us the texts, the emails, the money trail. And if she refuses, Adam asked, then we hand the quick-sign booking record to the district attorney. Elias said, and she goes down for 20 years. That is the choice we give her. The bus is coming. Adeline, she can either be under the wheels or driving it. I looked at the screen, at the digital debris of my family's betrayal, my mother's editing notes, my father's angry texts, my cousin's credit card. It wasn't a family tree anymore. It was a criminal organization. Do it, I said. But I want to be the one to tell her. No, Elias said sharply. You are the victim. If you talk to her, it looks like witness tampering. I will send my investigator. He is a former Federal Bureau of Investigation agent. He knows how to explain the reality of federal prison to a young mother without raising his voice. When? I asked. Tonight, Elias said. We catch her while the guilt is fresh, before your parents have a chance to coach her on what to say if she gets caught. He stood up and walked to the window. Looking out over the city, your parents think this is a family dispute, Elias said. They think they can bully you into silence because you are their daughter. They don't realize that by bringing in a third party, by bringing in Brielle, they just turned this into a conspiracy charge. They gave us the thread that unravels the whole sweater. I looked at Adam. He reached over and took my hand. Are you ready for this? He asked. Once we flip Brielle, there is no going back to Sunday dinners. This destroys the family permanently. The family was destroyed yesterday morning, I said, when I saw that red line on my screen. Now we are just sweeping up the glass. Okay, Adam said. Let's sweep. Elias turned back to us. Go home. Lock your doors. Do not answer unknown numbers. And for God's sake, keep your phones charged. Tonight is going to be long. I walked out of the office with a new feeling in my chest. It wasn't fear anymore. It was the cold, mechanical hum of a plan in motion. My parents had used procedure to trap me. Now, I was going to use procedure to bury them. They wanted a capacity hearing fine. I would give them one, but the question wouldn't be about my capacity to manage my money. It would be about their capacity to stay out of jail. The afternoon light in our living room had turned a bruised shade of purple, the kind that comes right before a summer storm. Adam and I were sitting on the floor surrounded by papers, bank statements, tax returns, the printed screenshots of my father's texts. We were building a fortress out of facts. My phone rang. It wasn't Elias Thorne, the pitbull lawyer we had just hired. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the caller ID said Sterling Associates. I picked it up. This is Adeline. Mrs. Westlake, a voice said. It was gravelly, old, and sounded like expensive scotch. This is Arthur Sterling. I was your grandmother's personal attorney for 30 years. I am the administrator of the Corbrook Underlying Trust Instrument. I sat up straighter. Arthur Sterling was a legend in our family. A man my father spoke of with a mixture of fear and annoyance. I hadn't spoken to him since the reading of the will 4 years ago. "Mr. Sterling," I said. "I assume you are calling about the activity on the account?" "I am calling," Sterling said, "because a specific clause in Evelyn's trust has just been triggered. I received a notification from the bank regarding a filed capacity letter and an attempt to invoke power of attorney. It was fraudulent," I said quickly. "We are fighting it. I am not incapacitated." "I know you aren't," Sterling said. There was a dry chuckle on the other end. "If you were incapacitated, you wouldn't be answering your phone on the second ring. But that is not why I'm calling. I'm calling to tell you that your grandmother, Evelyn, was a paranoid woman, and today, her paranoia has just saved you." I looked at Adam. He stopped sorting papers and watched me. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Evelyn knew her son," Sterling said. "He didn't say your father. He said her son. The distinction was sharp. She knew Derek had an appetite for control that exceeded his appetite for work. When we drafted the trust, she insisted on a poison pill provision. She called it the wolf at the door clause." I felt a shiver go down my spine. "I don't remember reading that in the summary." "It wasn't in the summary," Sterling said. "It was in the sealed appendix, only to be revealed if a specific condition was met. That condition was the presentation of documents declaring you mentally unfit by a family member. They triggered it," I whispered. "By faxing that fake letter." "Precisely," Sterling said. "Evelyn's instructions were clear. If anyone attempts to seize control of the trust using a medical competency claim that is not countersigned by the trust's own independent physician, 2 things happen immediately." "What things?" "First," Sterling said, "the trust enters a mandatory lockdown. It cannot be accessed, liquidated, or transferred by anyone including you, and definitely including your agents for a period of 90 days. It effectively freezes the asset so it cannot be stolen while the chaos settles. That explains why the bank system flagged it so hard," I said. "Second," Sterling continued, "and this is the part Derek is going to hate. Upon the triggering event, a penalty transfer is executed. $40,000 is immediately stripped from the principal balance and wired irrevocably to a pre-selected charitable organization of your choice. Evelyn wanted a financial consequence for the attempt. She wanted it to hurt." $40,000, I repeated. "It's gone," Sterling confirmed. "Wired 10 minutes ago to the Innocence Project. That was the charity you listed on your intake form 5 years ago. It's done. If Derek claims he was just trying to help you, he has to explain why his help just cost the family estate $40,000. I put a hand over my mouth. It was brilliant. It was vicious. It was exactly like my grandmother. She had rigged the money to self-destruct if anyone tried to grab it too hard. "That transfer is a fingerprint," I said, realizing the legal implication. "If I take this to court, I can point to that $40,000 loss as damages caused by their fraud. They didn't just annoy me, they diminished the trust." "Exactly," Sterling said. "But there is one more thing. Evelyn left a digital file with me. A letter. She instructed that it was only to be released to you if the poison pill was activated. I have just emailed it to you." "Thank you, Arthur," I said. My voice was thick. "Adeline," Sterling said, his voice softening for the first time. "She loved you very much. She just didn't trust the people raising you. Good luck." The line went dead. I looked at my phone. The email notification was there. Subject from Evelyn. Adam moved closer, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "Do you want to open it?" "I have to," I said. I tapped the screen. A PDF opened. It wasn't a typed legal document. It was handwritten, in my grandmother's spidery, elegant script. "My dearest Adeline, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and they have done exactly what I feared they would do. They have tried to take your voice by saying you have lost your mind. I am sorry. I am sorry that I was right. You grew up thinking that love was a transaction. You thought that if you were good enough, quiet enough, and perfect enough, Derek and Lydia would finally be satisfied. But you need to understand something. Little bird, their hunger is a bottomless pit. You cannot fill it, and you certainly cannot fix it. I did not leave you this money so you could be rich. I left you this money so you could be free. Money, in this family, is the only language they speak. If you have it, they will try to control you. If you give it to them, they will discard you. Do not forgive them for this. That is your instinct. I know. You have a kind heart, a heart that is not like theirs. You will want to say it was a misunderstanding. You will want to make peace to keep the family together. But listen to an old woman who watched her son turn into a wolf. A boundary is not a wall you build to punish them. It is a wall you build to protect yourself. Use the lawyers. Use the system. Trust the strangers who are paid to protect your interests more than the family who claims to do it for free. The strangers follow the law. Your parents follow their own appetites. Stand up. Adeline, you are not the little girl in the hallway anymore. You are the one holding the checkbook. Make them regret the day they underestimated you. Love, Gran. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. A single tear escaped, hot and angry, tracking down my cheek. I hadn't cried during the bank confrontation. I hadn't cried when I saw Adam's name on the fraud account. But hearing my grandmother's voice from the grave, validating the horror I had been living with, broke something open inside me. She knew. She had always known. All those times she had squeezed my hand a little too tight at dinner. All those times she had whispered, "Keep your own counsel." She was preparing me for this war. She knew, I whispered. She set a trap for them from 5 years ago. Adam read the letter over my shoulder. He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "I am so sorry. Addie." I wiped my face. "For what? You didn't write this." "For not seeing it," Adam said. He stood up and paced the small room. "For years, I told you that you were being too hard on them. I told you that Lydia was just high-strung and Derek was just old-fashioned. I made you go to those dinners. I made you pick up the phone." He stopped and looked at me, his eyes full of regret. "I thought I was helping you have a family, but I was just opening the door for the wolves. Your grandmother saw it. Why didn't I—" "Because you are normal, Adam," I said. "You come from a family where parents actually want their kids to succeed. You didn't have the context to see the teeth." "I see them now," Adam said. "And I swear to you, I am never letting them near you again. No more dinners, no more phone calls, no more keeping the peace. We are going to scorched earth." I looked at the letter again. "Trust the strangers who are paid to protect your interests." I picked up the phone and called Sterling back. "Mr. Sterling," I said when he answered, "I want to restructure the management protocol of the trust immediately." "I have the paperwork ready," Sterling said. "What are your instructions?" "I want to institute a zero-party verification rule," I said, using a term from my compliance job. "Effective immediately. No instruction regarding the trust can be accepted from anyone related to me by blood or marriage. Unless physically present with my designated attorney, no power of attorney documents are to be honored, ever, even if they are real, even if I am in a coma." "If you are in a coma," Sterling asked, "who authorizes payments for your care?" "You do," I said. "I want to appoint Sterling Associates as the sole successor trustee in the event of my incapacity. Not my parents, not my husband, you, a professional fiduciary who has a legal obligation to the contract, not a personal agenda." I looked at Adam as I said it. He nodded vigorously. He understood. This wasn't about not trusting him. It was about removing him as a target, if he had no power. My parents couldn't squeeze him to get to me. "A wise choice," Sterling said. "I will draft the amendment. The $40,000 penalty transfer has already generated a confirmation code. I am sending that to your lawyer, Elias Thorne. He can use it as evidence of malicious interference with a financial instrument." "Thank you," I said. I hung up. I felt stronger. The poison pill had worked. It had cost the estate money, yes, but $40,000 was a cheap price to pay for irrefutable proof. My parents had tried to grab the wheel, and the car had automatically swerved into a guardrail, documenting the crash. "We have them," Adam said, looking at the notification of the charity transfer on my laptop screen. "They just lost 40 grand of the money they were trying to steal. And they created a paper trail proving they caused the loss. Elias is going to destroy them in civil court." It felt like a victory. It felt like the end of the day. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the room. We had secured the bank. We had secured the trust. We had secured the evidence. But we had forgotten one thing. Derek Corbrook did not handle losing well. And when Derek Corbrook realized he had been locked out of the bank, he didn't just go home and sulk. He went to the one place that had more power than a bank. My phone buzzed. It was Elias Thorne. "Adeline," he said. His voice was urgent. Gone was the smooth, procedural confidence from earlier. This was the voice of a man watching a bomb drop. "What is it?" I asked. "Did Brielle confess?" "We haven't gotten to Brielle yet," Elias said. "Adeline, listen to me very carefully. Are you at home?" "Yes." "Do not answer the door," Elias said. "Turn off the lights. Go to the back room." "Why?" I stood up, fear spiking in my chest. "What happened?" "I just got a notification from the court docket system," Elias said. "Your father didn't just go home after the bank incident. He went straight to the probate court." "We knew that," I said. "He threatened guardianship." "He didn't just threaten it," Elias said. "He filed an ex parte emergency motion. That means he went before a judge without us being there. He claimed immediate, life-threatening danger." "He lied," I said. "We can prove he lied." "It doesn't matter right now," Elias said. "Because he found a sympathetic judge. Judge Holloway signed a temporary order 20 minutes ago. Adeline. He granted it." The world stopped. "Granted what?" I whispered. "Temporary emergency guardianship," Elias said. "It's only good for 72 hours until a full hearing. But right now, as of this moment, legally speaking, you are a ward of the state, and your father is your custodian." "No," I said. "That's impossible. We have the police report. We have the fraud evidence." "The judge didn't see any of that," Elias said. "All he saw was a crying mother and a terrified father claiming their daughter was giving away her life savings and hallucinating. They played the system, Adeline. They got the order." "What does that mean?" Adam asked, seeing my face. "It means," Elias said, "that the sheriff's deputies are legally obligated to pick you up and deliver you to your guardian's custody for medical stabilization. They are coming for you, not to arrest you, to save you." I looked at the front door. The fortress we had built was made of paper, and my father had just brought a battering ram. "They are coming to take me to their house," I told Adam, my voice shaking. "The judge signed the order. I am property." "No," Adam said. He grabbed his keys. "We are leaving. We are going to a hotel. We are crossing the state line. If you run," Elias warned over the speaker, "it proves their case. It proves you are erratic and dangerous. You will be a fugitive." "So I just sit here," I screamed. "I sit here and wait for them to drag me away." "You sit there," Elias said, "and you refuse to open the door until I get there. I am driving to the courthouse to file an emergency stay, but Adeline, if the deputies get there before I do, you have to go with them. If you resist physically, they will sedate you." I dropped the phone. Evelyn's letter was still on the screen. "The wolf is at the door." I looked out the window. A sheriff's cruiser turned onto our street, then another, and behind them, a familiar black Lincoln town car. My father's car. He hadn't just sent the police. He had come to collect his prize. "They're here," I said. Adam moved in front of me. "They are not taking you." "They have a court order." "Adam," I said, feeling a cold, dark resolve settle over me. "This isn't a bank error anymore. This is a kidnapping with a stamp on it." The doorbell rang, and then a heavy pounding. "Sheriff's Department," a voice boomed. "Open the door." I looked at the poison pill notification on the screen, $40,000 gone. I looked at the letter from my grandmother, and I realized that the twist wasn't that I had lost. The twist was that the fight had just moved from the spreadsheet to the street. I walked toward the door, not to open it, but to look through the peephole. I saw the deputies. I saw the papers in their hands, and behind them, standing by the Lincoln, I saw Derek. He wasn't looking at the deputies. He was looking right at the house, and he was smiling. He thought he had won. He was about to find out that he had just trapped himself in a cage with a tiger. The pounding on the door didn't stop. It echoed through the hallway. A rhythmic, heavy thudding that felt less like a knock and more like an invasion. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my hands were steady as I lifted my phone to check the doorbell camera feed. The screen lit up with a grainy, high-contrast view of my front porch. The porch light cast long, distorted shadows against the brickwork. There were 3 people standing there. My father, Derek, was in front, looking impatient. He checked his watch, then smoothed the lapels of his coat. My mother, Lydia, stood slightly behind him, her arms crossed, her face tight and pinched in the blue-white glow of the camera's night vision. And beside them was a large man I didn't recognize. He was holding a thick leather binder. "Sheriff's Department," the man shouted again, banging his fist against the wood. I tapped the audio button on the app. The sound from outside filtered in, tinny and sharp. "He's lying," I whispered to Adam, who was standing right behind me, a baseball bat held loosely in his right hand. "That's not a deputy. Look at his uniform. It's a private security firm, and that binder isn't a warrant. It's a service packet." "They're bluffing," Adam said, his voice low. "They want us to open the door so they can serve you with the guardianship papers personally, if you touch those papers." The clock starts. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was Elias Thorne. "Do not open the door. I have the emergency stay order filed, but the judge won't review it until 8 in the morning. Until then, you are in a legal gray zone. If they serve you tonight, they can claim immediate custody. Stay inside. Call the real police." I looked at the screen again. Derek leaned toward the doorbell camera. He knew I was watching. He looked straight into the lens, his eyes cold and flat. "Adeline," he said. His voice was calm, the reasonable father dealing with a difficult child. "We know you're in there. We aren't here to hurt you. We have a doctor with us. We just need you to sign some forms so we can get you the help you need without dragging this through the public courts." "A doctor," I scoffed. I looked at the man with the binder. "That's a process server. Dad," I pressed the talk button on the intercom. My voice projected out onto the porch, crackling slightly. "Get off my property," I said. Lydia jumped. She hadn't expected me to answer. Derek didn't flinch. "Adeline," Derek said, keeping his voice level. "Open the door. You are not well. We have a court order signed by Judge Holloway granting us temporary guardianship. You are legally required to come with us." "I haven't been served," I said, reciting the line Elias had drilled into me. "And my lawyer is filing a stay. If you try to enter this house, it is breaking and entering." "We are trying to save you," Lydia snapped. Stepping forward, her composure was cracking. "Do you have any idea how much money you are wasting? $40,000 gone today? Because of your little stunt with the trust. Open this door right now." I hit the record button on my phone's screen recording app. This was it. "I didn't lose that money, Mom," I said through the intercom. "You did. You triggered the penalty clause when you filed a fake capacity letter." "It wasn't fake," Lydia shouted. "You are sick. And if you don't come out here and sign this voluntary commitment form, I swear to God, Adeline, by tomorrow morning the court will lock every single account you have. You won't be able to buy a pack of gum. Is that what you want?" "Got it," I whispered. "Did you hear that?" I asked Adam. "Loud and clear," he said. "She just threatened financial retaliation if you don't comply. That proves the motive isn't medical." "I am calling the police," I said into the intercom. "The real police. Officer Hernandez is on speed dial." The man with the binder looked at Derek. "Mr. Corbrook, You said she would be cooperative. If she calls the cops, this gets complicated. I'm a process server, not a SWAT team. She's bluffing, Derek said, dismissing him. He turned back to the camera. Adeline, don't be dramatic. Open the door. Adam, if you are in there, stop enabling her. You are liable for this too. Adam stepped past me. He didn't open the door. He leaned close to the intercom panel on the wall. This is Adam, he said. His voice was deeper than I had ever heard it, stripped of all the polite deference he had shown my parents for 5 years. Derek, listen to me. We have a lawyer. We have a forensic audit of my laptop, and we know about Brielle. There was a silence on the porch. A profound, heavy silence. Derek's face didn't change, but Lydia took a half step back. I don't know what you're talking about, Derek said, but the smoothness was gone. Go home, Adam said. If you are still here in 3 minutes, you will be arrested for trespassing. You ungrateful little... Lydia started, lunging toward the door, but Derek caught her arm. Wait, Derek said. He looked at the camera one last time. You are making a mistake. Adeline, a very expensive mistake. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder fast. The process server cursed. I'm out of here, he said, tucking the binder under his arm. I'm not getting booked for harassment. He turned and walked briskly toward his car. Derek and Lydia stood their ground for a moment longer. They looked like two generals who had just realized their supply line was cut. Then, the blue and red lights of a patrol car swept across the front lawn, illuminating their faces in harsh, strobing flashes. It wasn't the sheriff's deputies coming to take me away. It was the Marrow Ridge Police Department coming to protect me. I watched on the screen as 2 officers stepped out of the cruiser. One of them was Hernandez. Mr. Corbrook, Hernandez asked, his hand resting near his belt. We have a report of trespassing and harassment at this address. This is my daughter's house, Derek said, switching instantly to his indignant taxpayer persona. We are here for a welfare check. She is mentally unstable. We did a welfare check on Mrs. Westlake 6 hours ago, Hernandez said coldly. She was fine. You, however, are on private property after being told to leave. I suggest you get in your car and go back to Denver before I have to ask you for ID. Lydia started to argue, but Derek pulled her back. He knew when a skirmish was lost. He glared at the camera lens, glared right at me, and then turned toward his Lincoln. We'll see you in court at 9. Derek called out. Bring your checkbook. I watched them drive away. The taillights of the Lincoln disappeared around the corner. I let out a breath that felt like it had been stuck in my chest for an hour. I slumped against the doorframe. They're gone, I said. For tonight, Adam said. He reached out and took my hand. His palm was sweating. But tomorrow morning, that emergency order is still active until Elias gets it quashed. We have to be at the courthouse before the doors open. My phone buzzed again. Another email. This time, the subject line was simple, asset secured. It was from Elias Thorne. I opened it. There was no text in the body of the email, just a video file attachment and a scanned affidavit. Is that Brielle? Adam asked, looking over my shoulder. Let's find out, I said. I clicked play. The video was shot in what looked like a hotel room. Brielle Hart was sitting in a chair, looking small and terrified. Her eyes were red-rimmed. A man's voice, Elias's investigator, spoke from off-camera. State your name for the record. Brielle Marie Hart, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. And do you understand that this statement is being given under a limited immunity agreement with the district attorney's office? Yes. Brielle, on June 14th, were you present at the Stoneford Trust and Savings Branch in Marrow Ridge? She took a shaky breath. She wiped her nose with the sleeve of her hoodie. Yes. And who were you with? My Aunt Lydia and Uncle Derek. And who else? A woman named Sarah, Brielle said. I don't know her last name. Aunt Lydia found her. She's an actress from a community theater group in Boulder. Lydia said she looked enough like Adeline to pass if she wore a mask and sunglasses. I gasped. An actress. They had hired a community theater actress. It was so petty, so cheap, yet so effective. "And what was your role?" the investigator asked. "I was supposed to be the witness," Brielle said, tears starting to spill. "Lydia told me that Adeline was on drugs. She told me you were blowing through the trust fund on cocaine and gambling, and that if we didn't stop you, the whole family would go bankrupt." "She lied to you," I said to the screen, feeling a pang of pity mixed with my anger. "She said if I helped them get the power of attorney, she would pay off my credit cards," Brielle continued. "I have $20,000 in debt. My husband has been out of work for 6 months. I didn't want to hurt Adeline. I just wanted to stop the calls from the collectors." "So you signed the document?" "Yes, I booked the mobile notary. I signed as the witness, and I watched Sarah sign Adeline's name." Derek gave Sarah $500 cash in the parking lot. $500, my identity, my autonomy. My life was sold for $500 and a lie about credit card debt. "Do you have evidence of this arrangement?" the investigator asked. "Yes," Brielle sniffled. She held up her phone. "Lydia texted me the script. She told me exactly what to say to the banker. She said, 'Make sure you tell him Adeline is distressed. Make him feel sorry for us.'" The video ended. I stared at the black screen. "We have it," Adam said softly. "We have the whole thing. Conspiracy, forgery, subornation of perjury. Brielle just handed us the keys to the kingdom." "She didn't just hand us the keys," I said, realizing the full weight of what I had just seen. "She just handed my parents a prison sentence." I looked at the clock. It was 11:30 at night. In 9 hours, I would walk into a courtroom. My father would be there, wearing his best suit, armed with his fake doctor's note and his emergency order. Expecting to bully a judge into handing me over, he had no idea that I wasn't bringing a defense. I was bringing a confession. "We need to send this to Elias," I said. "He needs to file it into the docket before the judge sits down." "It's already sent," Adam said. "Elias sent it to us. He's probably uploading it to the court server right now." I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My hands were finally steady. The fear that had gripped me since I saw the red line on my banking app was gone. It had been replaced by something colder, something harder. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the prosecutor. "You know," I said to Adam, staring out the window at the empty street where my parents had stood, "they always told me that family was the most important thing. That blood was thicker than water." "They were wrong," Adam said. "No," I said, turning to him. "They were right. Family is important. That's why I have to stop them. Because if I let them get away with this, I'm not protecting the family. I'm protecting a cancer." I went upstairs to lay out my clothes for court. I chose a navy blue suit, sharp, professional, severe. I didn't want to look like a daughter. I wanted to look like a CEO. I wanted to look like the person who owned the $480,000 they had tried so desperately to steal. I lay in bed, but I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling fan spin, counting the rotations. 1, 2, 3, tomorrow. The red line would be gone. Tomorrow, the access would be granted. But not to them. Tomorrow. Access denied would finally apply to the people who deserved it. The night passed in a blur of anticipation. At 5 in the morning, the sun began to bleed through the blinds. I got up, showered, and dressed. Adam was already up, making coffee. He was wearing his suit too. He looked tired but resolute. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," I said. We walked out to the car. The air was crisp and cool. The world looked normal. The neighbors were walking their dogs. The sprinkler systems were hissing on the lawns. No one knew that inside the beige stucco courthouse 5 miles away, a family was about to die. We drove in silence. When we pulled into the parking lot, I saw it. The black Lincoln Town car was already there, parked in the front row. My parents were standing by the entrance, talking to a man in a gray suit, their lawyer. Derek looked confident. He was laughing at something the lawyer said. Lydia was checking her makeup in a compact mirror. They looked like they were going to a brunch. not a hearing to strip their daughter of her civil rights. I took a deep breath. "Showtime," Adam said. I opened the car door and stepped out. The sound of my heels on the asphalt was sharp and loud. Derek turned. He saw me. His smile widened, a predatory baring of teeth. He nodded at me, a gesture that said, "You came to your senses." I didn't nod back. I didn't look away. I walked straight toward the metal detectors, clutching the folder that contained Brielle's affidavit like a loaded weapon. They thought they were serving me papers. They were about to be served justice. Courtroom 4B smelled of floor wax and old paper, a scent that usually made me nervous. Today, it smelled like opportunity. I sat at the plaintiff's table next to Elias Thorne, my spine pressed against the hard wood of the chair. Adam was on my right, his hand resting on his knee, still but ready. Across the aisle, my parents sat with their lawyer, a man named Sterling, no relation to the trust administrator, who looked like he billed by the sigh. Derek Corbrook was putting on the performance of a lifetime. He was hunched forward, his usually sharp posture softened into the shape of a worried father. He held a handkerchief in one hand. Lydia was even better. She wasn't looking at the judge. She was looking at me, her eyes wide and wet, radiating a terrifyingly convincing mix of love and heartbreak. If I didn't know she had tried to steal $463,700 from me 24 hours ago, I might have believed her myself. "All rise," the bailiff called out. Judge Holloway entered. He was an older man with a face carved from granite and eyes that looked like they had seen every lie a human being could tell. He sat down, adjusted his robes, and looked at the docket. "In the matter of the emergency guardianship of Adeline Westlake," Holloway read. His voice was a deep rumble. "Petitioners Derek and Lydia Corbrook allege immediate incapacity and financial recklessness. We are here to determine if the temporary order signed last night should stand or be vacated." My father's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, we are not here to punish Mrs. Westlake. We are here to save her. In the last 48 hours, she has exhibited erratic behavior, paranoia, and has cut off contact with her family. We have a medical letter from Dr. Vance certifying an acute dissociative episode. We simply ask for temporary custody of her assets to prevent her from draining the family trust." "Draining the trust," Judge Holloway repeated. He looked at Elias. "Mr. Thorne, your client is accused of being a danger to her own bank account. What say you?" Elias didn't stand up immediately. He arranged a stack of files on the table with agonizing precision. Then he rose. "Your Honor," Elias said, his voice calm and conversational, "my client hasn't spent a dime. The only people draining the trust are the petitioners sitting across the aisle." "Objection," Derek's lawyer shouted. "Speculation." "It is not speculation," Elias said, handing a thick binder to the bailiff to give to the judge. "It is arithmetic. Tab 1. Your Honor, the bank audit trail." I watched Holloway open the binder. He put on his reading glasses. "This document," Elias continued, "shows that yesterday at 12 noon, a wire transfer for $463,700 was initiated. It was not initiated by my client. It was initiated using a power of attorney document that we can prove is a forgery." Holloway looked at the page. $463,700. "That is the entire balance." "Correct," Elias said. "And if you look at tab 2, you will see where the money was going. A newly opened account, Corbrook Household Operations, signatories, Derek Corbrook, and a forged signature of Adam Westlake." Derek stiffened. I saw his knuckles turn white on the table. He hadn't expected us to have the bank records this fast. "Your Honor," Derek's lawyer interrupted, "my clients opened that account to safeguard the funds after Mrs. Westlake became unstable. It was a protective measure." A protective measure," Elias smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Let's talk about protection. Tab 3, please." Holloway flipped the page. "This is a still frame from the surveillance video at Stoneford Trust and Savings," Elias said. Taken yesterday. It shows the petitioners entering the bank with a woman who is decidedly not my client. I looked at the monitor mounted on the judge's bench. The image of the imposter in the mask filled the screen. This woman, Elias pointed out, is signing the power of attorney. Note the left wrist. Your Honor, there is a tattoo. My client, Mrs. Westlake, does not have a tattoo. Would the court like her to approach the bench and show her wrists? Holloway looked at the photo, then at me. That won't be necessary yet. Counselor, proceed. We have a sworn affidavit, Elias said, from the bank manager, Mara Keene, stating that the woman in this video presented herself as Adeline Corbrook. That is identity theft, Your Honor. It is not a medical intervention. Lydia made a small, choked sound. Derek put a hand on her arm to silence her. But the most damning evidence, Elias said, is in tab 4, the medical letter. Holloway turned the page. He frowned. Dr. Vance. Holloway read, Mountain View Cognitive Health. Look at the fax header. Your Honor, Elias said. The document was transmitted at 9:42 in the morning, from a number ending in 0198. So, Holloway asked. That number, Elias said, dropping his voice for effect, is not a medical facility. It is the residential landline of Derek and Lydia Corbrook. They faxed their own daughter's diagnosis from their bedroom. The courtroom went silent. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop humming. Holloway looked over his glasses at Derek. Mr. Corbrook, is this true? Did you fax this document? Derek stood up. He looked flustered for the first time. Your Honor, we received the letter from the doctor and faxed it to the bank ourselves to expedite the process. It was an emergency. From a doctor named Vance, Elias asked. We ran a license check. There is no doctor. S.J. Vance licensed to practice psychiatry in the state of Colorado. The medical license number on that letter belongs to a chiropractor in Utah who retired in 2015. Derek's face went from red to a pale. Sickly gray. They hadn't checked the license number. They had just made it up. Sit down. Mr. Corbrook, Holloway said. His voice was ice cold. We aren't done, Elias said. We have one more witness, someone who was in the room when the fraud was planned. The bailiff opened the side door. Brielle Hart walked in. Lydia gasped. It was a loud, sharp intake of breath that echoed in the quiet room. Brielle, she whispered. Brielle didn't look at her aunt. She walked straight to the witness stand, keeping her eyes on the floor. She looked terrified, but she sat down and took the oath. Elias walked over to her. Ms. Hart, do you recognize the petitioners? Yes, Brielle said, her voice shaking. They are my aunt and uncle. Did they ask you to do something on June 14th? Yes, Brielle said. Aunt Lydia told me that Adeline was on drugs. She said they needed to freeze her accounts to save her. She asked me to hire a mobile notary and witness a signature. Whose signature? A woman named Sarah, Brielle said. She's an actress. Lydia paid her $500. And did Lydia pay you? She paid off my credit card, Brielle said, crying now. $20,000. She transferred it yesterday morning. Elias turned to the judge. We have the bank transfer record in tab 5, a direct payment from Derek Corbrook's personal account to Chase Card Services, referencing Brielle Hart's account number. It was over. I could feel the energy in the room shift. The concerned parents were gone. In their place sat two people who had been caught buying a felony. Judge Holloway closed the binder. He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He looked at me. Mrs. Westlake, he said. I stood up. Yes, Your Honor. I have one question for you, he said. Do you feel incapacitated? I looked at him. I looked at my parents, who were now staring at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. No, Your Honor, I said. I feel angry. I feel betrayed. But I'm perfectly capable of managing my own life. The only thing I am unable to do is trust the people sitting at that table. Holloway nodded. He picked up his gavel. "The emergency guardianship order is vacated immediately," he ruled. "The petition is denied with prejudice. I am issuing a permanent restraining order against Derek and Lydia Corbrook. You are to have no contact with the respondent, her husband, or her financial institutions." He paused, looking at the bailiff. "Furthermore," Holloway said, "given the evidence of forgery, identity theft, and fraud presented here today, I am referring this entire file to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution. Mr. and Mrs. Corbrook, do not leave the state." He banged the gavel. It sounded like a gunshot. Derek slumped in his chair. Lydia put her face in her hands. They weren't looking at me anymore. They were looking at their lawyer, who was frantically packing his briefcase, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. We walked out of the courtroom into the bright hallway. I felt light, weightless. Mara Keene was waiting for us on a bench outside. She stood up when she saw us. "It's done," she asked. "It's done," I said. "Good," Mara said, "because I have news from the bank. The wire for $463,700 has been fully canceled. The money is back in the trust. And we clawed back the $16,000 from the fake household account." "What about the $40,000?" I asked. "The penalty transfer?" "Gone," Mara said. "The Innocence Project sent a receipt. It is a tax-deductible donation in your name." I smiled. My grandmother would have loved that. My parents had just paid $40,000 to help innocent people get out of jail, right before they might go to jail themselves. "And one more thing," Mara said. "We have restructured the account security. I removed the old profile completely. I built a new one. New encryption, new keys, no more family-first backdoors." "Thank you, Mara," I said. Adam and I walked out to the parking lot. The sun was high overhead now. "So," Adam said, loosening his tie, "we just sent your parents to prison." "They sent themselves," I said. "I just opened the door." "What now?" he asked. "Now," I said. "We sue them." "Sue them?" Adam blinked. "The criminal case will ruin them." "The criminal case is for the state," I said. "The civil case is for me. I'm suing for emotional distress, for the cost of the audit, for legal fees, and for the $40,000 they cost the trust. I am going to make sure that by the time this is over, the only thing Derek Corbrook manages is a commissary account." Adam laughed. It was a real laugh, free of the tension that had choked us for days. "Remind me never to make you angry." I stopped by the car. I pulled out my phone. For the last 3 days, every time I looked at the banking app, I had felt a spike of adrenaline. I had expected to see red lines. I had expected to see zero balances. I tapped the icon. The little white wheel spun. The screen cleared. There were no red banners. No access denied. Instead, a calm blue screen appeared. "Welcome. Adeline. Current balance, $440,000. Status active. Beneficiary verified. Fraud protection enabled." I scrolled down to the authorized users list. It was short, just me, and Elias Thorne as the emergency trustee. Derek Corbrook was gone. Lydia Corbrook was gone. I tapped on the Notifications tab. There was a log of attempted logins from the last hour. 10:15 a.m., failed login attempt. IP, blocked Denver, 10:17 a.m., failed login attempt. IP, blocked Denver, 10:20 a.m. Account access. Permanently revoked for user parent _ proxy. I imagined them in the car, or maybe in the hallway of the courthouse, frantically trying to check the balance, trying to move money, trying to salvage one last piece of control, and I imagined the screen they were seeing, access denied. "It works," I said, showing the screen to Adam. "It looks beautiful," he said. "It looks like freedom," I said. I locked the phone and put it in my pocket. I didn't need to check it again. The money was just numbers on a screen. The real victory was the silence. The silence of a phone that wouldn't ring with demands. The silence of a door that wouldn't be knocked on by fake police. "Let's go get lunch," I said. "I'm buying—" Adam smiled. and opened the car door for me. With the trust fund? No, I said, getting in. With my paycheck, the trust fund is for later, for when we're old and free. Right now, I just want a burger. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. The courthouse shrank in the distance, swallowing my parents and their lies. I turned forward, watching the road ahead, wide open and mine. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed watching justice be served, please let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Don't forget to subscribe to the Juliet Revenge Stories channel. Like this video, and hit that hype button to help this story get recommended to more people who need a little satisfaction in their day.